All right, it is 7 o'clock. We are ready to start the live stream now. Good evening, everybody. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of August 24th, 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held electronically, and members of council are participating remotely pursuant to the council's electronic participation policy. Public access to the meeting is available on the Local Government Access Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers, and on the city's YouTube channel online. Public access is also available by telephone by utilizing the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. All callers will be muted and may only comment during the times allotted for public comment as indicated on the agenda. If you're on the phone line waiting to speak to council and are also watching the meeting on YouTube or Channel 8, please know there are a couple of seconds of delay with the live stream. Please turn down your computer or TV volume as we approach the sections of the agenda reserved for public invited to be heard, so you can hear the council meeting on the phone line and to prevent background noise when you are unmuted to speak. Those calling in and wishing to speak to council may text 303-450-8757 to sign up to provide public comment. Please note that you must connect to the City Council meeting by calling the separate call-in number listed on the agenda. If you prefer to not text your name to the clerk, please speak up and indicate your desire to provide public comment when prompted at the appropriate times. Once you have been recognized, state your name and address and provide your comments to the council. Thank you all for following the directions and for maintaining meeting decorum tonight. Joanna, can you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Here.
Councilmember Witkovich.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson will probably be late tonight. Councilmember Downing.
Here.
Councilmember Brown will be absent. Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica. Here. Councilmember Escobar.
Here.
Okay, I will share my screen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Manager Geyer, do we have any responses to citizen inquiry tonight?
Yes, Mayor Leidy. I've asked Commander Heidi Waltz to join us this evening. School is, while not going back to session as we're used to school resuming, we are making plans this week to enforce speed limits within school zones, school traffic zones. And so I've asked Commander Heidi Waltz to talk with council a little bit about what activities you'll see this week. Commander Waltz, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, council. Mayor, how are you tonight? Everybody's doing well. We are starting with activities as early as today, as a matter of fact. Even though some of the schools are coming in starting next Monday, we did have Global Village starting this week, as well as one of the other elementaries, I think, is starting on Thursday, but most of them will be starting next Monday, the elementaries and middle schools. So at this point, we do have our school zone flashing lights that have started for all those schools to let people know that school is coming back into session, to kind of give them a heads up. We've also deployed one of our message boards out into some of our priority areas to give them a heads up as well as some of the things that we're looking at both on education and enforcement, on some complaints we've had in the past due to parking in front of driveways, in crosswalks and in some other areas. So that message board is going to be available, and we'll move it throughout the next week or so, next 2 weeks, to make sure that it's hitting some of our high priority areas with those messages. Most of the schools have limited number of students actually attending. I'm going to say 90 or less at most of the schools is going to be the average. So their hours are going to be fairly similar to what they've had in the past, maybe a little earlier, cutting out it looks like, but their hours are going to be similar. So they'll have roughly 90 kids or less at the schools. They are doing the pod learning, it looks like, and we've been working closely with the schools and the school district to make any adjustments as they continue to adjust some of their plans as well. In addition to that, we are also going to have some yard signs made up. Some of those areas that have really had issues with some driveway parkers, we're going to be posting some signs out to let people know not to park in front of the driveways and that there is a model traffic code violation for that. So that'll be posted and they can see that. So we're going to try to do a heavy education campaign on that to begin with, just to let people know, and then go from there if we need to. The SROs are checking to see if the schools could potentially send out some kind of email blast or letter to all of their people, also reminding them about parking in front of driveways around the school, the crosswalks, etc. We have some social media stuff that will be going up later this week, again, to also let our residents know about the things that are starting to come through. And then the traffic unit and the SROs are going to be focusing on the speed issues. So I have them hitting different areas throughout. They each have assigned schools. They will focus on those areas, and the traffic unit's really going to be looking for those major traffic violations, the stop sign violations, the speed violations, those kind of things. We have a list of some frequent complaints from last year, so we're going to make sure to hit those areas first, and then obviously if we get complaints throughout this time, we'll go to those as well. We really want to try to do some education on some of this stuff as well, because I think people aren't sure what's going on with the schools at this point. Not sure, what's exactly happening. So we're hoping that first week to do some education. We've created some courtesy notices also for people that park in and around the schools to be able to let them know, hey, please don't do this. Be respectful of your neighbors. Be respectful of the other people in the driveways. So we're doing that as well. And those will be ready for the end of this week also. We also are looking at the permitting area to make sure that the permits are going to be in place, and try to see what we can do to help out with those areas that do have the permits, and make sure that if there's any issues in those areas, we'll go check those as well. Now, this is a work in progress because, again, I think the schools have been working hard to make sure everybody gets notified, and but we all know that there's some areas that maybe people haven't paid attention to the schools because they don't think they're going back in session. So again, we're doing both an education and enforcement campaign, kind of a dual approach for the first at least week and a half, and then we'll do an analysis after that and evaluate if we need to make any changes or adjustments at that point. And I'm available if you guys have any questions.
Thank you. I have no questions, but I really appreciate the effort that you're putting into keeping our schools and our kids and all of our families safe as we make this transition, because we haven't been back in an extra long time. So that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? No. Okay. So our next item is we have an interview for the Citizens Affairs Board. So it looks like Kristen, could you say your last name for me?
Roblato.
Roblato, okay.
Yes.
I was going to get close, but I didn't want to mess that up. So you are getting ready for our Ward 3 position on the Citizens Affairs Board. So you interviewed with the board members at the August 5th meeting, and the board formally recommended your appointment to the CAB at a special meeting on August 12th. So I know we may have some council members that would like to get to know you a little bit.
Great. Thank you. Do you want to ask questions, or shall I just tell you about
I was waiting for some hands from council. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you. I don't really have any questions. I was at the CAB meeting where Kristen came and spoke, and just want to welcome you, encourage you, say thank you.
Yes.
We've been trying really hard to get some more participation on that board, and it's wonderful to see that we do have people who are interested, and you can always contact any of your council members, but certainly your Ward 3 council members if you have any questions or ideas or suggestions, and welcome aboard.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Kristen for applying. I have two questions for you. One is I unfortunately was not able to attend the CAB meeting, but I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and your interest, particularly in serving in on the Citizens Affairs Advisory Board. And then my second question is, why did this vacancy's been open for a little bit? So what was it that spurred you to action?
Definitely. Well, thank you all for having me. I am a citizen, have been here. I've been in the city for 10 years, but I actually graduated from Northglenn High School. My grandparents lived in the city. So I just wanted to help. I really just, short of joining city council, how can I help? And it's nice to attend events and communicate with you guys, but I was once part of the Recreation Advisory Committee, and that was super awesome. I feel like we made a lot of progress and it felt useful. So with a lot of the discourse out in the world right now, we've had COVID, we've had a lot of people, health conditions, we see the uprising of the riots, we do see Black Lives Matter movement, and I was just trying to figure out where I fit in and how I could help. And the only way I knew was to use my voice and use my skills. And I have some background in communication. I've been in compliance before. I work with seniors. I currently work with real estate development and investment, but I still think that the best thing is communication. And how can I help bridge the gap between the citizens, me, and you guys? And it's just to help be a voice. Like if I can hear what people need to say or want to say and gather that and get it to you guys, that's where I think I fit in. It's just something that I like to talk. I like to talk to a lot of people. So I think it would just be maybe a good match, and it's a good starting place within city council interests.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Mullica.
So my question was very similar. I'm not going to have you go over the whole thing again, but thank you for stepping up in this time and especially representing Ward 3, because I know that position has been vacant for a while, and I appreciate that. And your willingness to support our community and serve it. So I thought your application was fantastic. So thank you so much for applying, and I look forward to working with you.
I look forward to it too. Thank you very much.
Anyone else have anything for Kristen tonight? No? Okay. Well, thank you for applying.
Thanks.
And it became highly recommended. Thank you for serving in this role, and we look forward to working with you.
Great. Let me know how I can help and the best way to communicate with you guys. I heard Catherine say email or just reach out to her, and there's more protocol that we can follow, but I will just definitely be reaching out to you guys as I can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Okay, we are moving into a proclamation. So August 31st is Overdose Awareness Day. So Councilmember Julie Duran-Mullica brought this forward. So I'm going to open it up and share my screen, and I will read the proclamation. Okay. Oops. I was going to make it bigger, but maybe not. Okay. Whereas Overdose Awareness Day is recognized around the world as an occasion to acknowledge those who have experienced an overdose, as well as loved ones who have been affected. And whereas Overdose Awareness Day aims to publicly challenge the stigma associated with substance use disorders and overdosing, and sends a message to current and former drug users that their lives are valued. And whereas addiction is a disease and the discrimination associated with addiction, I think, must be addressed so that no one else feels shame or disgrace because of a drug overdose. And whereas overdoses can occur in people who have an addiction to substances as well as those who do not, such as someone accidentally overdosing on prescription opioids after a surgery or an injury, an elderly person consuming too much of a prescribed pain reliever, a teenager experimenting with illegal drugs for the first time, or a child ingesting opioid pills or powders from a home medicine cabinet. And whereas over the last 20 years, drug overdose deaths have increased significantly in many parts of the world and continue to worsen. Each year, a number of deaths are reported, which is currently predominantly driven by opioids and stimulants in combination with other drugs. And whereas 71,000 people died of an overdose in the United States in 2019, and 1,062 people died of an overdose in the state of Colorado in 2019. And whereas Adams County ranks 4th in the state for the most overdose deaths since 2000. And whereas this day spreads the message that the tragedy of overdose death is preventable and empowers people to come together to tackle the issue of overdosing as a community. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim August 31st, 2020 as Overdose Awareness Day in the City of Northglenn and urge residents to recognize the purpose of this important day, honor the individuals whose lives have been lost, and acknowledge the grief felt by families, friends, and community. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 24th day of August, 2020. So thank you, Councilmember Mullica, for raising this. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, actually, if I can. This was actually brought to me by a friend of mine who works very closely when it comes to harm reduction. And I think one of the things that with everything going on this year, overdose deaths have maybe made it to the bottom of the news cycle. And I thought this was an important way of just kind of highlighting that this still is an ongoing issue in our community. So last year, as the proclamation says, there was 1,062 Coloradans who died from overdose. So far this year, we're at 555 people. And so those are people who are in our community. And so it really sets us up to have another really deadly year for overdose. Another important thing that I think is important to notice is that fentanyl-related overdose deaths are 282% higher in Denver between January and May of this year. So COVID-19 has probably had a huge, profound effect on this particular community and the increase of deaths that we're seeing. I think one thing that we sometimes forget to remember is that there are families on the other side of these people. And so that's why I'd really like to encourage folks, especially, families who are suffering from somebody who has passed away due to an overdose, to seek, supportive communities. There's lots of supportive communities out there. One of them is called GRASP. It's Grief Recovery After a Substance Passing. And there's lots of resources. We're really lucky here to have community reach, but it's also important to reach out to your community and find those kind of supportive groups and really support those families in our community that are suffering. So thank you so much, Mayor Leidy, for bringing this forward, and thank you, Council, for our continued effort in this. Thanks.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone want to add to that or? No? Okay. So we're moving into presentations. We have the August Neighborhood Beautification and Magnificent Tree Awards. So Jenny Murphy is with us. And I will
Good
pull up.
evening, Mayor and City
Hello.
Council. Thank you for having me one last time this summer. Hard to believe we're in August already and ending the summer with this program. Just to refresh the audience, the Northglenn Beautification Program was established in 1998, and so this is our 22nd year to recognize residents who do such a great job making their homes and their yards beautiful. As you know, the city is divided into 13 areas, and we have some amazing judges that get to decide on the winners. Especially this year, I'd like to thank them because it was really challenging getting the program started during COVID. And then to those that were recipients this year, I'm sure it was kind of, a little frustrating and scary at times whether to answer your door or, talk to someone. So we overcame those challenges and found just a summer full of really beautiful yards. In June, July, and August, the winners are chosen by the judges. And we also received nominations from throughout the community, and I passed those nominations on to the judges. Each month, we give away the Yard of the Month Award. And then each month, we can give away the Water-Wise Yard of the Month Award. In particular, it's very important this month as we are recognizing drought conditions, and we have put into effect our watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and being very aware of not having runoff into the streets and driveways and sidewalks. So very important with the Water-Wise Yard of the Month to remember that each one of us can make a difference in helping to conserve water, not just for Northglenn, but for our state right now that is dealing with so many wildfires. Also in August, we add the Long-Term Home Beautiful Award, and that's given at the end of the summer to a home and a yard that is just always very beautiful throughout the whole year, really. One thing to remember about all of the yards is we have noticed that residents are using more and more perennials. They're using other types of landscaping to save money and to conserve water. So even though homes maybe have not gotten Water-Wise, you might notice that more and more residents are incorporating those things into their yards to help with those. And then lastly, tonight we get to recognize the most magnificent tree in Northglenn. And excuse me, we have some great judges that look at all of those nominations. And I think you'll really enjoy that tonight also. So I believe we're ready if you are, Mayor.
Yep.
Okay. I do think several people did call in this evening. So when the mayor asks if you would like to speak up, we would love to hear from you. And I know that the council would also. So our first nomination this evening for the month of August is Garrett Zanel and Nicole Griego, and they live at 10700 Kimblewick Circle in number 126.
Well, that's beautiful. Do we have Garrett or Nicole on the line? No? Okay, well, it's a beautiful home.
And the next home is Scott Campbell, and he lives at 2739 East 109th Avenue.
Hi, is Scott Campbell on the line? No? Okay, well, congratulations to Scott.
And I did notice some of these names waiting on the line, but I know it's hard to talk on the phone too, so we're just glad they're attending. Next, we have Dan Howell at 11856 Gaylord Way. This is an example of one of those homes that's using a lot of other materials to conserve and save water.
Dan Howell, are you on the line? Maybe. Well, congratulations.
Okay, and next we have Eric and Kim Hoffman, and they live at 2087 East 115th Place.
Are the Hoffmans on the line? No, I love their flagpole.
Yes, we are.
Oh, hey, welcome. Congratulations. Did you want to tell us a little bit about your yard work?
Thank you very much.
Oh, hey, welcome. Congratulations.
Well, we try to keep the grass. We don't cut it too short, and we give it water only when it really needs it, and we use Revive from time to time to help perk it up. We don't cut it too short, and we give it water only when it really needs it.
Okay, well, I love those tips. We'll have to try them out. I love your flagpole. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Gloria Larson at 11274 Corona Drive.
Do we have Gloria on the line? No, okay. Well, congratulations to Gloria.
Next we have Jeff and Connie Ebbison at 10971 Rosalie Drive.
Jeff or Connie, are you with us?
Hey, have fun. Oh, thank you. I sent a very email.
No. Okay. Well, congratulations.
Out on Friday, your email would remind
And the next beautiful yard is Liz McRae at 1402 East 108th Avenue. And again, the last three homes have incorporated, a good deal of bricks and rock and flower pots. Again, helping give us ideas to conserve water.
Excellent. Liz, do you happen to be on the line?
the idea of having a community.
No? Okay, well, congratulations.
And all of a sudden they just drop
And next we have Kim and Vince Noda at 10931 Pearl Way.
of their police department in order
Kim or Vince, are you with us tonight?
to get the report in June. That's the number one priority.
Okay. We do have some unmuted callers and we can hear your conversation. Just be aware. So thank you to Kim and Vince. Their home is beautiful.
And this next one, I'm just going to say Robert and Myra, and they have a beautiful home at 11841 Lincoln Street. It's really pretty.
Robert and Myra, are you with us?
No, it's not that. In fact, I read an article by ultra conservative
Okay, well, it is a beautiful home. Congratulations.
policing needs. If you have a small town,
And next we have Bill Smith and Sandy Dryling at 1483 West 111th Place.
tell you some things, and you ignore the things they tell you.
Bill and Sandy, are you with us tonight?
By the internet.
I am. This is Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Welcome to council. How are you today?
It's always
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Great. Well, you have a beautiful yard. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you keep it that way?
We water 3 times a week, isn't it? Mow it, fertilize it.
kind of slow.
That's about it. We don't let it dry out. We don't let it get too short.
Well, it looks absolutely beautiful. Congratulations on your award.
All righty, take care of
Thank
yourself.
you.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
Yeah.
And next we have Kay Fleischer at 10838 Brewer Drive.
Is Kay on the line with us? No? Okay.
Okay, and then we have Ryan and Anna Atkins at 10688 Varice Lane.
Ryan or Anna, are you with us tonight? No, it's quite beautiful. I like the shaded front porch.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and we have Carol and her family, Crystal and Jerry, at 10033 Pecos Street. And you might remember this home at Christmas time. They always have so many lights and decorations there on Pecos Street. Really pretty home.
Nice. Carol, Crystal, or Jerry, are you with us? No, there's another one with a flagpole. I need to get one of those. Those are cool. There's another one. This is great.
Okay, and as I was saying at the beginning, this month we have some water-wise Yard of the Month homes, and we were able to find 3 that we truly felt, were conserving water, maybe more than others. So the first one is Tom and Judy Carter at 10952 Blue Jay Lane, and it's highly visible, really pretty. They're doing a really good job of showing us how to be water wise.
Tom and Judy, are you on the line? No? Okay. Well, congratulations.
The next WaterWise winner, I have 2 photos here, one a side view and more of a front view. They have a beautiful large corner lot, and they're conserving water. They're being very water wise at 1723 Graves Court. And April Bale and her husband, who didn't want to be named, are the proud owners.
April, did you join us tonight? No, it's quite beautiful.
And then the next home has been recently redone, and it's WaterWise Yard of the Month. Kevin and Patty O'Shea at 10858 Brewer Drive.
Kevin and Patty, are you with us? That's beautiful. They did a great job.
And then we move into our last category, which is long-term home beautiful. Brian and Mai Duke are the first winners at 10526 Madison Way.
Brian and Mai, are you with us tonight?
We are.
Well, hello. Congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much. I believe the weather is kind of at fault here, as I think all the plants are confused. They're all going back through spring again. I see even our roses are starting to rebloom. So I'm like, this has been a really weird year for the weather.
It certainly has. Well, your yard is beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And next we have Jose and Mary Vargas at 2582 East 109th Avenue.
Do we have Jose or Mary with us tonight? That's a beautiful front porch as well. Congratulations.
And I wish you all could have met Ted and Ursula, just a charming couple. Ted is out in his yard mowing crisscross when I took this picture. And he built that stone wall himself. And their home address is 11617 Humboldt Street. Just a beautiful, beautiful home.
Well, and Jenny, what that looks like is one of those, it's not a gas mower. Those are those.
Right, it's
eco-friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so
It's
cool.
an electric mower, yes. Yeah, he was really proud of that. And I thought he was all done mowing, but he was starting to cut the other direction. So
yeah, that's a strategy. That's pretty awesome.
really beautiful.
Are Ted and Ursula on the line with us tonight? Wow, yeah, that looks great. Thank you.
And Mike and Karen Rose live at 2046 East 113th Place. Another beautiful home and yard.
Mike or Karen, are you with us tonight? No, well, congratulations.
And next we have Alberta Aguilar and Mark Baca, and they live at 1167 East 111th Place. Just a perfect little home that's been redone and very beautiful flowers and landscaping.
Alberta or Mark, are you with us? Okay, well, congratulations.
And next, another example of long-term home beautiful and being very water wise at 10719 Carroll Lane, Chandra Stevens.
Oh, that's beautiful. Chandra, are you with us on the phone?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hi, congratulations. I'm admiring all of your flowers and just looks beautiful. How do you keep it up?
Well, I planted a lot of perennials that come back year after year, so it's not too much maintenance. Most of what you see are also very drought tolerant, so they're all easy maintenance flowers there.
Well,
we bought this house about 6 years ago, and it was a rental that was very run down. It was my husband and I's goal to get this award or get some type of award. We love this program before we were 40, and we managed to do that.
Well done. Congratulations. Yeah, I really like the boulders in the front as well.
Thank you.
Touch. Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for doing the recognition. We appreciate it.
And next we have Les and Linda Leopold at 355 East 112th Drive. And they're using a lot of perennials and rock and landscaping materials also.
Les and Linda, are you with us tonight? Yes, that does look great. And I like their hug sign in the front.
The next long-term winner is Clayton McLeod at 10973 Bannock Street.
Clayton, are you with us tonight? No? Oh, I like the use of rock on that one too.
Another really beautiful home that this couple does all of the work themselves is Don and Bernie Matheson at 1130 Clare Lane. Their backyard is amazing, just as amazing as the front is.
Don and Bernie, did you join us tonight? Okay.
And this home would be one to drive by. They've totally redone this home, added on, put a garage on, put a second level on. It's really just a work of art. And this is George Martinez and Edith Melendez at 10416 Pompey Way. And it's really beautiful.
Do we have George or Edith on the line with us? It is quite beautiful.
And our last long-term Home Beautiful Award goes to Georgia Swadley at 169 Belford Drive, a corner lot that's just filled with perennials and bushes and trees, and it's just so beautiful.
Georgia, did you call in this evening? Okay.
And then last but not least, this is our 2020 Magnificent Tree. It's a green ash. It's actually called a seedless green ash. And it's owned by Owen and Leona Dignan at 10767 Eura Lane. I had a chance to visit with Owen and Leona, and they are original owners of this home. Owen planted that tree in 1969. It was just a little tiny tree. And Owen and Leona have been married for 65 years. Raised their family there, Northglenn schools, and I hope everybody drives by to see their beautiful tree and home.
Owen and Leona, are you with us tonight?
I am, but I don't think you can hear me.
I can hear you. Thank you for calling in.
Oh, yeah.
What a beautiful tree.
Thank you. It looks gorgeous.
It really does.
Oh, it's so pretty.
How long have you lived here?
51 years.
So I bet that tree was much smaller once upon a time.
Much smaller.
Well,
you can't even hug it if you wanted to. You couldn't get around it.
Oh, it's hard to take care of a tree that size. So
right.
You've done a great job. It's very beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you. Owen's around here too, but he's watching you on TV.
Okay, well, we'll wave and say hello.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
And that's it for this year, Mayor and City Council. Thank you so much for supporting this program. It means a lot to our community. I hear those stories every day, and just honored to be able to share the community with you all.
Well, thank you. Okay. Our second presentation is from Debbie Tuttle with our Economic Development and NERA partners. It is the Q1 and Q2 2020 report. Debbie, do you have something you'd like me to project?
Yes, there's a PowerPoint. It starts on page 13 there.
Okay. Welcome, Debbie. How are you?
Welcome. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council. We also have our NERA commissioners on today. This is going to be a provide a report for both Q1 and Q2 economic development projects and activities, but it's also serving as the Q1 and Q2 Northglenn Urban Renewal Authority presentations. We do a joint council meeting. So they are on the line. Feel free when we get done here to ask them any questions. So if you want to go to the next slide, Mayor. So just as a reminder for our residents listening, Northglenn strategic plan was adopted in October of 2019, provides a roadmap to guide the city efforts through 2023. And as you can see from the arrow there, our department, economic development, as well as with NERA, is in charge of business retention and growth to cultivate and grow the quality and diversity of businesses to sustain our local economy and workforce. Next slide, please. So this is just a brief overview of the 2020 economic indicators. Definitely the first 6 months of 2020 has been challenging, mostly for our business community with COVID. We've spent literally the last 6 months dedicated to business retention efforts, helping our Northglenn businesses navigate through COVID-19. Staff focused its time on developing resources, tools, grants, and communicating with our businesses. But as you can see here, we did announce 30 new businesses since January through June 30th. 75,535 square feet of retail, office, and industrial space was absorbed. And at the end of June, the unemployment rate, unfortunately, was 12.5. Then we also added 58 new jobs. I will tell you that the new unemployment rates came in last week, and the good news is that it went down to 9%. So that's great news. This was at the end of June. So next slide, please. So a little bit about our new storefronts. This just gives you a breakdown of what months they came in, and also the square footage and new employees. Those new businesses are listed in the report for anybody to review on page 5, 6, and 7. Next slide, please. This also gives you kind of a snapshot of where the new storefront businesses are. The majority of them are in the marketplace, mainly due to Phoenix Salons. They added 11 new businesses in Phoenix Salons, which was great. They are totally filled up now. They don't have any vacancies now, which is great news for a new business. Also, 32,000 was absorbed for the courts. The courts opened, of course, in this year. And then Office Evolution, which is over in the Metro North building, that they took 11,000 square feet, almost the entire 5th floor, which we're going to be celebrating a ribbon cutting in next month, which you'll get an invite to. And then also Rocket Brakes, which was over in the marketplace, the annex area, they actually leased 7,200 square feet. So you can kind of see there's a very wide variety of new businesses. It's not just in one area, with the exception of Phoenix Salons. Next slide, please. So during COVID-19, of course, economic development team is really focusing on our closed businesses. And we know we will have more as before the end of the year, there's no doubt. But just to mention a couple of them, of course, Carl's Farm, they actually closed in October, but we report them in January because that's when they sent in the closure. But that was 6,000 square feet. So that was a pretty big one for us. Dress Barn over in the marketplace closed. That was 7,500 square feet. US Bank over on the marketplace, which is on Melody, they closed that bank totally. That was 8,000 square feet. And then just a note on Bear Metal Manufacturing, Inc. That was a new business. They leased 3,900 square feet. They just never made it to actual opening, which is kind of sad. They did their business license. They were open for a couple months, and they just weren't able to get the business off the ground. So just a little feedback on that. I think you all know the pop culture connection over in Hillcrest. Unfortunately, they closed as well. So these are the 12 businesses so far. Number of employees, 36. Square feet, 38,776. If you want to turn to the next slide, please. And again, this just kind of shows you, gives you an idea of where the closed storefronts were. So again, if you wanted to look at more your wards, you can kind of see that is very diversified on the closed storefronts, Q1 and Q2. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about COVID and what the economic development team has really been focusing on. First of all, the Businesses Back Recovery Grant, that is to pay for COVID-related expenses to both keep their employees safe, their customers safe, and to be able to work remotely. So for new equipment and software and PPE, so all of those are included in there. As of the date of this report, we had 35 businesses, and we've got 500,000 that council actually approved. This is CARES Act funding. So out of that 500,000, 115,792 has been committed to 35 businesses. As of last Thursday, we are now up to 42 businesses being approved and 131,000 being spent. So that leaves another 368,000 on that grant that is open until September 30th. We continue to reach out to our businesses, and this grant has been a little bit different, and a large majority of them are taking the entire $5,000 in grant, which is the limit that they can take. So there is a lot of expenses that these businesses are actually incurring, specifically around COVID-19 to open, reopen, stay open. Then, of course, the Elevate Small Business Grant, that was for rent and mortgage payment assistance. We provided 129 of our businesses $494,000 in grant funding. And then we did our mini dining grant. So 40 restaurants in Northglenn. We went out, we purchased over $3,000 from each one of those to get gift cards for a total of $125,000. And those are all being distributed out to our residents and at our different events, our grab bags and our events. So that was very successful. Next slide, please. Some other things that we've been doing around COVID is we did do the business town hall. So when COVID was happening, the rules were changing constantly, not on a daily basis, but an hourly basis. There were so many questions, I can tell you, from our business communities. And so we held a town hall called Rules, Reopening, and Resources. We had the county manager there. We also had Adams County Regional Economic Partnerships there, and we had Tri-County Health there to answer questions directly to our businesses. We also launched online on our website an online takeout curbside delivery directory so that anybody who was looking for any kind of restaurant specifically, that they could go online and find those easily. Try to, again, give businesses, try to keep those were open and they were allowed to be open for curbside delivery and takeout. We also did our COVID-19 business resource website, which I can tell you was very popular. Just to give you kind of a quick idea on that, the COVID resources website in March had 1,452 hits. In April, 1,281. In May, 779. In June, 447. And we keep that up to date all the time with all the new rules, regulations, and guidelines so they can easily go there. So again, that was very heavily used. We also worked very closely with the planning department and the clerk's office on temporary use permit for outdoor dining. And we did have 5 businesses take advantage of that. That's Bad Daddy's, Cracker Barrel, Periodic Brewing, Texas Roadhouse, and the Glen. So that allowed them to go outside of the building. As you know, they can only be at 50% inside the restaurant, which really limits them of how many they can serve. Now they can serve outside as well under the temporary use permit. So that's been a successful project too. We placed 19 Biz is Back banners around the community. And what we're doing right now is, if you recall, last year we started our virtual walks where we actually went into the individual centers, talked to the businesses, spent a day there. What we're doing this time is now we're doing business calls. So there's about 7 of us that have volunteered. Each one of them are given an area like Hillcrest or Marketplace or Marketplace Annex. They call each one of those businesses. We have a script that we use to ask what's going on. How are they doing? How were they impacted by COVID? Have they had to reduce their staff? Did they use PPE and any of the programs that were out there for federal, as well as to educate them on the grants that we've had available. So that's been very successful. We're learning a lot, and I think that touch point with our businesses on a personal basis has been very, very helpful. We're combining all of those. We're calling all those businesses back if they have any concerns. So again, we're trying to get very personal with our businesses, not just through emails, which we do a lot of that, to try to help them as well. And then also we've served on the Adams County Business Support Retention Response and Recovery Team. During COVID, the first 3 months, we met every single week to develop programs specifically around things to help our businesses, how we can, grants came out of there, support programs came out of there. Adams County did a lot of different grants, a lot of loans came out of there to help our businesses. So that was really beneficial. So again, that kind of gives you an idea of all the focus that we were doing on COVID-19. Next slide, please. Some good news that we were able to do, and we haven't been able to do it with COVID. The first one in the middle is the courts. As you see, we had no masks on there. That was the last one we did maskless, and probably will for quite some time. That was held in February. And then we did one for the new scooters and also one for second time sports. And as you can tell, we all were social distanced and had our masks on for those. Next slide, please. Give you a quick update on Northglenn housing stats. If any of you guys are following, housing prices have gone up at least 8% in the Metro Denver area. People are working from home. They want a nice place to work. So it surprised me that they are actually buying new homes, and it really has. At the end of June, which was very surprising to me, we had a house actually listed for $747,000 in Northglenn. Not sure where that was, but I did confirm that amount. It is correct. The median price was $410,000. It was on average day on the market 26, and we only had 13 houses on the market. I just got a new report from them just this week, actually on Friday, excuse me, and we now have. It's gone down to $433,000. It's actually lower than it was before. The top range now is at $548,000. So we're really right around $405,000 median list price. So again, houses are still selling. They're going fast. We are the lowest median, second to Thornton at $433,000. And we do have the lowest of inventory of houses on the market. Next slide, please. Unemployment. Boy, look at this. 2010, that was a long time ago, right? Right after the recession, we were at 10.4. And as I noted before, we're at 12.5 at the end of June. But you can see in 2019 in December, we were at 2.5 unemployment rate. So this is definitely, Northglenn has been impacted. As of this report, there was 2,789 Northglenn residents unemployed. And that, of course, that is impacting, it impacts everybody's families, their homes, and also shopping, in our economy. The good part is, as I just mentioned before, it has moved down in July to 9%, and there's 1,975 people unemployed. Next slide, please. So our commercial real estate. So as you can see, the vacancy rate at the end of Q2 was 5.3. And it was a little bit lower on Q1. And why this is important is one office, people are no longer working from the offices, right? They actually call it, it's no longer the dead malls. It's going to be the dead office buildings, right? Because people are working from home. So in the first quarter, when everything happened and we thought we would probably open, we were at 4.3% unemployment or vacancy rate. We're now at 5.3. Last year, though, in Q2 last year at the same time, we were at 6.8. So we're actually lower in vacancy than we were last year at the same time. Industrial space, we're at 2.0. Q1, we were at 1.6, so hardly any change. And in Q2 last year, we were at 1.1. So not a lot of change, never does change much in industrial because we don't have a lot of space. Retail, we're at 8.2. This one is definitely a concern for our city because of course, sales tax is so important to us. Q1, it was at 8.1, so we only went up 0.1%. Last year though, on Q2 at this same time, we were at 11.2%. vacancy rate. So we're actually lower, just like we were in office, retail, and realistically, we were stable and static for industrial. So actually, things don't look so bad in the commercial real estate market at this time. Next slide. So now we're going to do our Q2 and year end for the Northglenn Urban Renewal Authority. Again, our commissioners are on the phone. Feel free to ask questions to them. So we're going to go to the next slide. We're going to give you a quick update of what's going on over at the Garland Center. We've talked about this before, but some things have changed. So just for a reminder for the residents listening, the former Garland Center, was a shopping mall, 54-year-old shopping mall. That was, NERA purchased the entire property. We redeveloped it by selling it to Walmart. One of the stipulations with Walmart was that we had to make sure that it was cleaned up. When I say cleaned up, there was environmental issues in the soils due to a dry cleaner that had been there 50 years ago. Dry cleaners are not something that is always good on a property. So we had to go through the process of a phase 1, a phase 2, and since then, as you can see and we call it PCE, the concentrations is what we're looking at. So if you look at, we've drilled, I think there's 15 wells that have been drilled and tested, but these are the wells that we're actually looking at, which is the MW17R. Oop. Oh, no problem. One more down. There we go. Thank you. And the MW10, those are the ones that we're really looking at. And the goal is to get them, and the VCUP 3 one is the one that we're looking at. So we need to get all of those under 17. So as you can see, in 2018, the first one there, the green, was at 120. In June of 2020, we spent a lot of money, a lot of different technology trying to clean up the site. But we're going to talk about a new technology that we just implemented and how it is now taking it down. So in June of 2020, we drilled a new well over on Gethsemane Church, a Lutheran church. And as you can see, we're using a new technology called E-Rocks. That specifically is a new technology. It's really being beta tested out there. And it was actually recommended by the Colorado Department of Health and Environment. So you can see from 2018 and the new figures in 2020, now just using this for 3 months, it went down to 42 and now down to 30. The well that you see there at the blue one, that one's just a monitoring well. We don't worry about that one because that is under the 17. And then the VCUP 3, again, was at 49, it's at 49, and at 46. We're fine with that one. We feel like this one is going to be going down too. It's part of the monitoring well. So we have now approved, as of the last NERA meeting, to go with, we've gone through the 3-month pilot test, and we're going to go through now implementing the e-redox for another 12 months. And the goal will be that we'll be able to get VCUP. So the VCUP is a voluntary cleanup, which we've done, but it's no further action from the Colorado Department of Environment. And then we would be done with the cleanup on that. So we haven't seen this success since we've been doing the testing clear back in 2012. So this is a really good news for NERA, for the property, so that we can move forward on this. Next slide. In 2020, we have done several grants, as you can see. In the Huron Center, we had one office plaza. We had we actually had 2 in Office Plaza, and then 2 in, actually 4 at 112th in Huron. So we do the business improvement grants. We did 7. Those improvement grants are for exterior improvements. And we did 2 business utility assistance upgrades for $78,000. And those businesses are listed in your packet on page 12 and 13 if you want to see which businesses took advantage of the grants. Next slide. We're just going to do a quick overview of 2019. The annual report is now online. You should have gotten one in the mail, I believe. Did you guys get one in the mail? I believe you did, of the annual report. Maybe not, we'll get one to you, but it is online. Last year, NERA did $158,000 in grants, and that leveraged the private sector improvements was at 7.2. So of all those businesses that did that, they invested $7.2 million, and we spent $158,000. It actually improved 90,000, almost 91,000 square feet of commercial space and created or retained 237 jobs. So as you can see, these business improvement grants really do make a difference in our community, not only for making it look more pleasing to the community, but also helps them with some costs that they have. Next slide. You're all aware that NERA did bond $11.5 million to do the Civic Center public infrastructure improvements for the Civic Center. The investment will make the remaining 11 acres shovel ready for future private sector redevelopment opportunities. This investment by NERA takes advantage of using tax increment financing or TIF for a longer period of time and low bond interest rates and during a strong market conditions. It's a good thing we did it when we did it, because I don't think we'd be in the same place right now with the bond rates. So that's really exciting. NERA has never bonded before. This is our first bond. Next slide. 2019, these are the grants that I had mentioned to you, so you can kind of see geographically where they were located at. Again, 19 grants, 158,000, leveraged 7.2 million in private sector investment. Next slide. This is the last slide here for NERA. I know we talked about this the last presentation that I had given, but this gives you an overview of the investments that NERA has made since 1995 through the end of 2019. So they have invested $43 million back into the community through either property preparation and land acquisition, infrastructure improvements, consulting and studies to get the projects done, business grants and incentives. So it's very impressive. I commend the Northglenn Urban Renewal for everything they do, and definitely for bonding for the Civic Center, because that's good. That was a game changer for us in moving forward. Next slide, please. So I'd open it up to any questions that the council has, and if the NERA members want to add anything, feel free to do that as well. No questions?
Yeah, I don't see any hands right now. I see, would the NERA members like to say hello?
If everybody wants to unmute and put their camera on, that would be great.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, good evening, Council and Mayor. I see all my comrades here in that we work together every month and try to do our best for the city of Northglenn. I just want to mention we have 2 new members this year. One of them is former Mayor Kathy Novak, of course, who joined us this last year, and then former council member Leslie Carrico joined us this year. So we are a brain power group of people, I will tell you. I just wanted to ask Debbie if she would, just to give some perspective for the cleanup at Garland. I know I asked you this at our last meeting, but what the total amount of money that we spent on this cleanup, it was a little bit of a nightmare. I can tell you it's very much a relief to see the numbers come down finally. It kind of was a money pit to begin with, to be honest with you. So Debbie, can you just
approximately $750,000 has been spent to date just in the remediation.
Yeah, we truly did not expect that. We thought it was going to be, just a couple months cleanup and that'll be the end of it, but it really didn't turn out that way. So So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rosie. Does anyone else want to say hello? Or we're happy to see your faces tonight. Thanks for joining us on the Zoom call. Thank you for your work on NERA. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much for the NERA board members for joining us this evening and for all of your work investing in our city and making it truly shine. My question is probably more for Debbie. I'm wondering if you have any updates on the Northglenn marketplace. In particular, are we still good to go with Harkins? Are we seeing any changes or any shifts happening there that you can share with the community tonight?
Well, some I can share. We did have a conversation with Hutensky Capital Partners. They are going forward with the movie theater for sure at this point. Movie theaters are very iffy right now. So I think there's some conversations that we will be having in the near future on just movement around there. There's some other pieces of and elements that they talked to both Heather, City Manager Heather Geyer and I about that potentially will be happening. I can't share those with you today. It's not bad news. They're still committed to our center totally. And they do have 2 tenants signed up that should open in the spring, which will be good. They will go in the former Office Depot site, so right next to Ross. I think those will be a good addition to the center. We're not seeing, the bottom line is, there could be more closures over there. We don't know. Tuesday mornings, of course, they announced bankruptcy. The Northglenn store was not put on that list, at least at this time, they have not been. I know there has been a couple of other companies that have talked about bankruptcy. We've been hearing some rumblings about bankruptcy. Again, those are out of our control. We can't do anything with those. But they did talk to us about all the leases that they have renewed, which is good. They've also got almost everybody on board on signing off on the new covenant control regulations so that they can actually now start on that piece of it, which is now that they purchased Arrow Rock, or what the Tuesday mornings and KNG building is. Now that they have all of that property, there's just Lowe's is the only other property owner. So, but they do have to get sign-offs by all of the tenants, and they're just about there. Heather, did I forget anything that you'd like to share?
You covered everything, Debbie, and I would just echo that Harkins is still in process. And so, like Debbie mentioned, we'll stay in conversation with HCP, and certainly if something changes, we'll let members of NERA as well as council know, but they're still very committed to the site at this point.
They have also hired a new architect, and we're meeting with them this week, actually, with our planning folks to go over some new plans that they have for the marketplace. So I think that's good. As we start moving forward, we'll be sharing all of that information, of course, with both NERA and with City Council. They want to run some of this by us first. I will tell you, they have been more than generous with the businesses that are there during COVID-19 and giving them rent relief. Cinzetti's actually, as you know, has not been able to open the entire time, still is not open because buffets are not allowed in the state of Colorado to open. So they've been closed since March. And I know they gave them 4 months without having to pay or pay back. And some, I can tell you, almost all of the other businesses also got rent retrieval too. So they've been more than generous of trying to help our businesses and keeping them open. So I give them a lot of credit for that. These are challenging times, as you can imagine, being a property owner, and they have properties all over the nation, and they're dealing with those all the time. But again, they were adamant that they're very committed to this site and getting it redeveloped. Things are going to take longer with COVID, as we all know. I think as we start moving through the new plans and looking at those, we'll be able to have some more open conversations with council and NERA.
Thank you for that update.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for NERA or Debbie thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you do. and we appreciate the update. Okay, we are moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, has anyone signed up to speak to council tonight?
Yes, Mayor, we have several individuals on the line who would like to speak, so I will just start down the list.
Okay.
Okay, the first person is John Algie with the Northglenn Thornton Rotary Club. So John is unmuted now.
Okay, hi John, how are you? John, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me, Mayor?
Hi, yes, now we can. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing well, thank you. I have some big shoes to follow up with Debbie and Rosie. You know, being a fellow Rotarian, of course, so that's what I'm going to speak about tonight. So I'll get to it. So good evening, Mayor Leidy, Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, and members of council and staff. As Sergeant at Arms and Marketing Director of the Rotary Club of Northglenn Thornton, I would like to update this body on our progress towards our inaugural virtual duck derby, which will take place on Saturday, October 17th at 3 p.m. We have successfully recorded on video both our corporate duck and small duck races, which will be utilized. The winning numbers will be computer generated the day of the race. We are encouraging corporate and sponsor level donors to decorate your ducks as we are still conducting our best dressed duck competition. The deadline for corporate and sponsor level donors to send us a picture of your decorated ducks will be Wednesday, September 30th. The email address to send us your photos is the following: Northglenn Thornton Rotary at hotmail.com. Once again, that's Northglenn Thornton Rotary at hotmail.com. I did send a transcript to Clerk Small for you to check out, and the links are on that transcript. So on Thursday, October 1st, all pictures turned in will be posted to our club Facebook page for folks to vote on by liking the pic. The most likes will be the winner of Best Decorated Duck. To purchase tickets and corporate or sponsor levels, the email address is www.rotaryducks.org. Once again, www.rotaryducks.org. We will also be posting signage promoting our duck derby at strategic locations in Northglenn and Thornton, and we will be utilizing the electric signage along Interstate 25. So in closing, our deepest thanks to the City of Northglenn for your sponsorship of this year's duck derby and for being an awesome partner to us. Thank you.
Thanks, John. We appreciate you stopping by.
Absolutely. It was great to hang out and be on the patio and check out the amazing presentations for the yards, and also with Economic Development Director Tuttle with her amazing presentation. So
thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, you're welcome. Be safe. I love you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Joanna, who's next?
Okay, the next individual is Wesley Dunbar.
Hi, Wesley.
Hello?
How are you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome to council. How are you tonight?
Great, great. So I'm Wes Dunbar. I live in Ward 1 on Ogden Street.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity and your time. The more I engage our city government, the more I appreciate how much of your time and your commitment that you guys give, and it's greatly appreciated. And I want to thank especially those who I've been able to speak with personally. It breeds confidence in the process. This evening, I want to voice my support for the community co-produced public safety in general and the community oversight board specifically, or what you guys in your August 12th session was hybrid option. This model is not a wave of the future or some hot topic off the press. CCPP and community oversight are proven methods of effective public safety. The history dates back to recently in this country, 1950s, but even further, as I referenced in my phone call in June, to Robert Peel back in the 1830s. Now, I heard numerous times in the town halls and the study sessions the value of collaboration. There's no better model of this than community co-produced public safety. Engaging the community is essential to identifying public safety priorities. But this must take another step deeper into the community, and that is accompaniment. Accompaniment does not wait for people to complain, knock on your door, ring your phone, or send you a text. Accompaniment plants public safety personnel in the community, engaging and embracing the people served. To wait for complaints continues the same squeaky wheel and grease syndrome. Accompaniment is about walking with folks and listening to them. Community co-produced public safety and community oversight boards work hand in glove together to create a vision for the whole community. In listening to the hours of conversation and community input that you all went through, there's a lot said about strategic planning moving forward. But I also heard a whole lot of undecideds, maybes, and not enough information. That's a disconnect from the vision. It may be that there are some questions and information needed, but outside of costs, I honestly did not hear any of you say anything else about specifically what you were looking for. How much information is enough? The 360 assessment is chock full of information and suggestions. It's easy to get bogged down in questions, but what is missing is a clear vision set forth by leaders for community co-produced public safety. I did hear there's not a problem, is there? What are you waiting for? None of us want another ugly incident in our community. Let me share a proverb from my faith tradition that I use regularly as my work as a pastor. Where there is no vision, the people perish. It's time to be clear about the vision of community co-produced public safety. There will always be questions to answer, circumstances to consider, or unknown impacts of implementing a plan, but we cannot be held back by doubts and fears. I would suggest that most apprehensions are fueled by fear. Fear staggers and stumbles a move forward. The CCPP comes highly recommended by your own sources. It has a history of being an effective method of public safety. It's the most inclusive way to involve the community. And the history of community oversight boards specifically has demonstrated they are more reformative to departments than punitive to individual officers. They are a tool for learning and providing new ideas for more comprehensive community involvement. By definition, a community oversight board is locally staffed and has local concerns as its agenda, and thus not federally or statewide mandated or monitored by the DOJ or the FBI. Finally, as I mentioned, I heard lots of maybes and undecideds from you on City Council to move forward with this proposal. It's imperative that you pick up this task and not let it fall through the cracks or go by the wayside. You make the road by walking. Again, from my faith tradition, Moses did not know his way out of Egypt to a better place, but he started walking. The people learned as they traveled, and only when they did not band together did they run into trouble. I want to express my appreciation for your commitment and your time, and let you know I am willing to work with you as a Northglenn resident as we walk together. But we make the road by walking, not by sitting. Thank you for your time.
Whoops, thank you. Have a great night. All right, Joanna, who's next?
The next individual is Paul Weinrock.
Okay, hi, Paul. How are you?
He might need just a second to unmute himself because I'm having trouble finding his number on the list.
Okay.
Give him just a sec here.
Paul, are you there? I hope we didn't lose him.
I think we're having some technical difficulties, so if it's okay, I'm going to skip to the next person on the list and I'll work on getting Paul unmuted. So the next person is Dr. Curtis Breville. Okay, Dr. Curtis, you're unmuted. Are you ready?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, welcome.
Thank you very much, and appreciate this time to talk with you. I'm here to support the development of that community co-production policing initiative and the hybrid model citizen oversight board that the Barry Dunn report recommended. I've spent over 30 years directly involved with protecting, defending, and speaking up for the civil liberties and equality of the people in my community. I run a consultancy that applies proven research-backed methods to help organizations to be harassment-free, diverse, and inclusive. Laws change practices. They don't change hearts. Only getting to know each other through inclusive initiatives gets those interacting, sharing stories, and working together towards a common goal. That achieves that. I'm also here to encourage the available resources, if there are available resources in the city and the police department, to continue giving Northglenn resident and U.S. veteran Gerald Montour and his amazing wife Linda the appropriate effort they deserved after having been victimized by the premeditated theft of their Native American flags and American flag. Finally, I'm going to end up with asking, are there any barriers that you can share that exist that would prevent from establishing the CCPP Citizens Oversight Board sometime, maybe by the end of September? Is there something that is standing in the way, keeping us from having more discussions and trying to formulate this? And with that, I'll leave that to you to answer. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you have a great night. Joanna, who's next?
You don't answer?
Not in public, invited to be heard. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to go to Lauren Weatherly. So Lauren is unmuted now.
Hi, Lauren. Welcome to council.
Hi, thank you. So I live at 1190 West 99th Avenue. Your study session on August 12th was not open to public comment, so I'm calling tonight to urge you to take necessary steps to move forward with community co-production policing, including a hybrid model citizen oversight board. In your August 12th study session, Mitch from Barry Dunn said, one of the things that distinguishes community co-production policing is the amount of inclusivity and collaboration with the community. And he provided a lot of context for how this model will impact racial equity work in positive ways. And he went on to say, and this is a quote, "This is not a paid model, this is a volunteer model generally in which people come together." And then after Mitch's presentation, City Manager Geyer said that staff recommends you use the hybrid model citizen oversight board and combine it with CCPP based on the recommendations in the 360 assessment. She said, and I want to read her quote because I love it. She said, "We have a really unique opportunity to do something different. Northglenn is a unique community given our size, given our proximity to the Denver metro area. And I want to recommend that we draw on our existing strengths as a community. So tying back to the strong foundation that we have with our police department and our community. So overall, I view the 4 primary goals that are the foundation of this work are to increase community trust, increase transparency, provide enhanced public safety, and improve racial diversity and overall equity in the community," end quote. And after hearing these presentations, it seemed like you had a clear path moving forward and it was being recommended. But then I was very disappointed in your subsequent discussion and in your failure to move forward. In your discussion on August 12th, several of you said that you didn't have enough information. By directing staff to move forward, you would have continued to receive more information. And beyond that, you all had access to the 360 assessment for over a month, just like I did. You heard multiple presentations and received information from your staff and from Barry Dunn consultants over the course of July and August. Councilor Downing, you said on August 12th that you have not heard an outcry for change. And I think that perhaps you and I have been listening to different public meetings because in both city council meetings and in town halls, I've heard numerous residents speaking out and raising concerns about racism and bias and diversity and equity and asking for police oversight. I heard Councilor Brown say on August 12th that she didn't see a need to move forward based on just a few loud voices. And I have heard more Northglenn residents speak up about this issue than I've ever heard in any issue in my 10 years in Northglenn. But beyond that, if you have engaged and passionate residents reaching out in any capacity, don't they deserve to be listened to? Mayor Leidy and Councilor Brown, on August 12th, I heard you say that you've received requests from residents to not move forward. And I find this really confusing because in every meeting I've listened to, I've not once heard any resident say that they disagree with council providing more pathways for residents to participate. By failing to direct staff to move forward with CCPP and a hybrid model oversight board, you ignored resident requests, you ignored staff's recommendation, and you ignored the recommendation provided to you by the consultants that our tax money paid for. I don't want my tax money paying for settlements in wrongful death lawsuits like the one we paid out in January of this year for the death of Jeremy Patchek at the hands of Northglenn police and the permanent paralysis of his girlfriend, Serena Manella. I want my tax money paying for proactive steps to ensure that something like that never happens in Northglenn again. By moving forward, you will continue to receive information and have a voice in the way this is set up. You will be saying, move forward on something that will not have a material impact on the city budget. You will be saying, move forward on something that can prevent future tragedies like the one that happened in Northglenn in 2017 and the one that just happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Jacob Blake was brutally shot by police in front of his children. You would be saying, move forward on something that will engage your community more deeply. You will be saying to your community that you value and prioritize trust between police and residents. There is no downside. And finally, I want to read a quote from the Government Alliance on Race and Equity website listed as the sixth principle of the GARE approach, which is operate with urgency and accountability. They say, while there's often a belief that change is hard and takes time, we have seen repeatedly that when change is a priority and urgency is felt, change is embraced and can take place quickly. Building in institutional accountability mechanisms via a clear plan of action will allow accountability. Collectively, we must create greater urgency and public will to achieve racial equity, end quote. You have public will. I ask you to act with urgency. City Council, I urge you to listen to your city staff, listen to the consultants from Barry Dunn, reopen this conversation and move forward on establishing community co-produced policing in Northglenn now, including a hybrid model oversight board. Thank you.
Wow, I'm talking away. I was telling Lauren she did an excellent job staying to exactly 5 minutes. That was impressive. Who is next, Joanna?
So we're going to go back to Paul Weinrock.
Oh,
great. I think we have the unmuting figured out. So he's going to unmute himself in a second or two, and then he'll be next on the list.
Hello, all. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, thank you.
Oh, whoo, got it fixed. So, hi, everyone. My name is Paul Weinrock. Several of you know me. Some awesome people here. I live in Ward 2 at 11946 Spring Drive, Northglenn, Colorado. I want to thank you to Mayor Pro Tem and City Council for allowing me the opportunity to share my thoughts. I have lived in Northglenn for 11 years and an active community member. I am a member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board since 2017. I am currently representing the city of Northglenn on the Adams County Open Space Advisory Board. I won the Home Based Business Award in 2015, and I've been photographing for this city for many years as a contractor. I have been an advocate for the city. I am passionate about our city, and I want us to thrive and be part of the solution. I appreciate that our city is willing to look at the white supremacy in our culture and asking hard questions. I, like many people, have been saddened by the current state of our country, our state, and specifically our city. On a regular basis, I see problems with the current policing model and systemic racism in this country, state, and in our own city. This past week on Nextdoor, I posted a conversation about the Confederate flag. Before the account was blocked, someone reached out to me, thanking me for posting, and I wanted to read the response. I wish there were more people like you. I'm scared every day for my 17-year-old's life. He says, can I run at the X park? I'm not going to name the park. I'm scared that he will get pulled over by the police. He is just a kid, my son, best friend, and my reason to live. Sorry. I wish the world was different. Only a few will put themselves in my shoes and fight my fight that I say so silently. I have never been able to walk into a room full of people without having to scan for the racial look of disapproval. I wanted more from my son. I pray for them and others. Thank you from my soul to another. I will congregate where I feel safe, and you are one of my safe places in this big world. She said that only a few will put themselves in her shoes. Let's make the city an ally. This is just one of many stories that I've heard, and it crushes my heart every time I hear about this. I am white, and I have never had to have this conversation, not once, with my own children. I am asking City Council and the Mayor, and specifically my two City Council members, Becky Brown and Joyce Downing, to support the recommendation from Barry Dunn and to create a community co-produced policing board. As mentioned in the Hillary Hines website, this model places the delivery of public safety services into a shared decision model, one that assigns the public joint decision authority in establishing policing strategy within their communities. There were 45 recommendations from Barry Dunn. This would be a good time to create that oversight committee to strengthen the relationship with the community and create police oversight in our department. One of the high priority recommendations stated, utilize a formal and professional strategic planning process to develop a clear and articulable mission, vision, values, and goals and objectives. Let's start this outright by creating this board. I do want to acknowledge that there were several positive comments in the Barry Dunn report, such as this one. Notwithstanding the findings and recommendations outlined in this report, the MPD is generally efficient agency with a commitment to community policing, and staff provided Barry Dunn with several examples of collaborative police solving efforts. Staff at all levels represent a high level of commitment and pride in their work. The MPD has a strong support in the community, which is clearly the result of intentional outreach. Chief of Police Jim May is well known throughout Northglenn, and Barry Dunn observed this on several occasions. I do want to believe through my interactions with the city employees, city council, and the chief, everyone has good intentions, but it has to be more than intentions. We have to consider the impact our city has on our community. I believe creating this board to make sure that we're always considering the impact, not just the intentions. An almost $9 million settlement is not the way to create goodwill and trust in our community. In closing, I listened to a recent town hall meeting where several people that work for the city had good intentions, but could not see their own systemic problems in the city, and that saddens me. We must create a community co-produced policing board to move our city in the right direction, to stop the whiteness and the systemic racism in our city. We need to create a city that is safer for everyone. And maybe not all people see or experience systemic barriers, but the fact is that some residents do. Not only do they exist in the United States, but they exist here in our very own city of Northglenn. We must move forward with this. Thank you for your time.
Doing it again. Thank you. We appreciate you calling in. All right. Joanna, who's next?
Next on the list is Alex Morgan.
Alex, are you ready?
Hi, yes, thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to council.
Thank you. My name is Alex Morgan, and I live at 11042 Grant Drive in Ward 3 in Northglenn. And I'm calling tonight to voice my support for Committee Co-Production Policing, a hybrid model citizen oversight board, and the removal of school resource officers from schools. In the wake of the shooting of Jacob Blake, yet another unarmed Black man at the hands of the police in this country, it feels surreal that we are continuing to debate whether changes should be made to the systems of policing that exist within this country. It seems to me that one place that we're getting stuck as a community is in our understanding and definition of systemic racism. Systemic racism, I was just reading this today and it really resonated with me. Systemic racism does not necessarily mean that there are huge numbers of racists in the system. It means that even if there were no individuals who are racist present in the system would still oppress people of color. Our traditional systems of policing in this country were designed as a system of oppression. No matter how much we as individuals feel that we're acting in a non-racist manner, we're still contributing to racism by upholding this system of oppression. Ibram X. Kendi, who is an author and historian, explains that there is no acting in a non-racist manner. There's only racist and actively anti-racist. So as the representative from Barry Dunn explained in the town hall meeting on August 12th, which others have referenced already tonight, Northglenn is in a unique position to move forward with some very innovative solutions to some real problems that were identified in the 360 review that was ordered by the city. And as recommended by Barry Dunn, Northglenn could adopt a committee co-production policing model, which would not only alleviate some of the burdens faced by the Northglenn PD, but also bring community into this dialogue so that we are supporting rather than punishing our residents. As a mother and as an educator, it is my desire to support the development of a community in which life is held in respect and regard. And this cannot happen unless we are dismantling the systems that do not hold some lives, and specifically the lives of people of color, with respect. Until we are living in a society of respect for all, I truly believe that we are living in a society that does not make space for any of us to fully live. I want to touch briefly on the matter of SROs. Again, this is a system of oppression and punitive measures that we are embedding in our schools. The Justice Policy Institute explains this about the school to prison pipeline. Quote, when a school allows a school resource officer to arrest a student, or less drastically and more commonly refers a student to law enforcement or juvenile court as a form of discipline, they are turning that student over to the juvenile justice system. That makes it that much easier for a student to get a juvenile record. So even if punishment for a first offense is light, punishment for a second offense is likely to be much harsher. This happens way more at schools with officers. A report by the Justice Policy Institute found that even controlling for a school district's poverty level, schools with officers had 5 times as many arrests for disorderly conduct as schools without them, end quote. Returning to the matter of committee co-produced policing and community oversight, in the August 12th meeting, it was stated that input on this topic had only come from a few voices. It seems to me that you're cherry picking who you will listen to. It seems that you are not listening to your residents who I have heard say again and again, it is time to move beyond these antiquated modalities. And it seems that you're not listening to your consulting firm who you hired to guide you on this topic. And so I have to ask, who are you listening to? City Council, I urge you to listen to your city staff and to the consultants from Barry Dunn, who I, as a taxpayer, helped to pay for. Move forward on establishing community co-produced policing in Northglenn now, including a hybrid model oversight board, and vote no on keeping school resource officers in schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna, who's next?
Zen Kretzinger is next on the list. So Zen should be unmuted now.
Hello, are you there? Hello? Hello?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. Welcome to council.
Hi, I'm Zen Kretzinger. I live in Ward 3. I'm 16 and I'm a member of the Northglenn Youth Council. I'm here to share my support for community co-produced public safety. I just started learning about community co-produced public safety, and so I don't have the best understanding. But from what I do understand, this idea is for the citizens and social services to actively help guide the police and relieve some of the load from them. I think that this sounds like a good idea because one big problem with police is that they have too much on their plates. An example I can think of is how in our local police station, they had so many officers out on the 4th of July on firework patrol. And I think it would have been a better solution to have had more campaigns for neighbors to talk to each other. Policing as an institution has systematic racism built into its foundation. And while the community co-produced public safety is not a perfect solution, I believe that it is an important step in the right direction. Northglenn is in a unique position to embrace a community-minded, collaborative approach to public safety. I feel it is important for the city to listen to its citizens. I would like to see an equitable future for us, future generations, and all of our community members. I believe this decision would help to make sure that people are safe and that people in power are accountable for their actions. We should want to make sure that justice is accessible to all people. City Council, I urge you to listen to your city staff, your citizens, and the consultants at Barry Dunn. Please move forward on establishing community co-produced policing, including a hybrid model oversight board in Northglenn now. Thank you.
Zen, thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. Joanna, who's next?
Erin Hoagland is next on the list, and Erin should be unmuted now.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, we can.
Excellent. Well, hello, City Council. I am going to read you a statement on behalf of my spouse who couldn't be here right now due to having to work. My spouse, Sunny Hoagland, and I live in Ward 2 at 1962 Truda Drive. So, hi, Northglenn City Council. This is Sunny Hoagland from Ward 2. I wanted to leave a comment today to express how disappointed I am in the City Council's response to the 360 assessment and City staff's recommendations on community policing and a hybrid police oversight board. The 360 assessment could not have been more clear that moving to community policing would reduce current needs for resources and staff, and it boosts the police accountability that myself and so many others in Northglenn have been asking for. What is the point of banners that say, quote, "I hear you" and "we're listening" when you've outright dismissed their recommendations and the rousing public comment over the last 2 months? Anyways, now that my feelings are out of the way, let me give you an additional avenue to pursue. The STAR program in Denver is a program that sends one paramedic and one mental health clinician to answer 911 dispatch calls dealing with mental health, addiction, and homelessness. Unlike police, the van team does not wear uniforms or carry weapons, and their van is unmarked. This makes people in crisis so much more comfortable to speak about their issues. They've also been taking time to talk to every person through their crisis, literally drive them to where they need to go and connect them to resources that they need. The STAR program is modeled after a program in Eugene, Oregon called CAHOOTS, CAHOOTS. In over 30 years, they've never had a patient seriously injured, and the program saves the city about $8.5 million a year. Considering Northglenn settled a $9 million lawsuit in January for police murdering a white man and paralyzing his girlfriend for life, let's be proactive by pushing addiction, mental health, and homelessness off the shoulders of our police that should have never handled these social issues in the first place. I mean, 3 days ago in Aurora, they said they were going to talk about implementing the STAR program because of all the protests against police brutality and systematic racism happening there. We can not only do the same, but we can be leaders by expanding it. Can we enlist social workers and domestic violence experts with the paramedic and mental health clinicians? Could we have enough vans to cover all of Northglenn at any given time? Can we make sure we have multilingual staff? There's so much room for growth in Northglenn, but you, as our elected leaders, it is your job to take us there. Please do it for the well-being of us all.
Thank you. All right, Joanna, who's next?
Next is Brian Weatherly, and Brian should be unmuted now.
Okay, hi, Brian.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, thanks.
I can. Thank you. So I'm Brian Weatherly. I live in Ward 4, and I'm a member of the Northglenn Planning Commission. I'm also calling tonight to express my strong support for council to move forward with the city staff recommendation from the August 12th study session meeting to form a community co-production policing board. I must say I was disheartened by the discussion that followed the presentation by city staff and Barry Dunn regarding police oversight models and the ultimate recommendation for the CCPP board. It seemed that the general consensus of city council was to do nothing or to kick the can down the road for an indeterminate amount of time. Speaking as a citizen and a voter in the city of Northglenn, this is unacceptable. The city hired Barry Dunn to conduct a 360 assessment of the police department after, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of these names, but after Jeremy Patchcheck was killed and Serena Manillo was paralyzed by bullets fired by individuals wearing Northglenn Police Department uniforms. The $8.25 million of the $9 million settlement that was paid by the city will barely cover the cost of the lifetime of long-term care that Ms. Manillo will require, and that's in 2020 dollars. I, along with most of the other people in Northglenn, do not have much information about this incident. There's scant legitimate local media at the city level, and the city did everything they could to keep this incident out of the public view. A common question that's been continuously asked over the past few months by members of council in the discussion of police oversight was, what problem are we trying to solve? This question was answered during the August 12th study session, and I will repeat it here. We want to increase community trust in the city and police department. We want increased transparency. We want enhanced public safety. We want improved racial and diversity equity. The 2017 incident illustrates serious issues in at least 3 out of the 4 of these categories. That incident aside, these are straightforward goals that are honestly table stake expectations for a policing model for a city in the United States in the 21st century. I was so excited after watching the presentation for the community co-production policing model in the meeting, and I'm dumbfounded that the city council did not immediately jump at the opportunity to move forward and begin the process. The thing that stood out to me most about the CCPP model is that it's proactive as opposed to reactive. The other more traditional oversight models seem to be designed in reaction to very serious structural issues with the police department, or the expectation that problems with the police are going to continuously occur. We're thankfully not currently in one of these types of situations in our city. The CCPP model allows us as a city to define the relationship between the citizens of Northglenn and the police department, and it allows this relationship to evolve as needed. I want to illustrate some of the other key takeaways from the presentation. It's an ongoing process. It's never done. This is a good thing. This needs to be a constant conversation. The model is scalable with the needs of the city at any given time. It takes a direct burden off city council in ensuring that the follow through on the prioritization and the implementation of the 360 assessment recommendations. Having this type of policing model will help with the recruitment and retention of the type of police officers we want to have in Northglenn. The difficulty for the city to recruit and the inability to retain officers are problems I've heard repeatedly expressed by Chief May. It will also give the public a positive voice in policing policy. It will give the public a more transparent view of policing data in Northglenn, and it will give the city, citizens, and police flexibility and fluidity in determining the citizen oversight that is appropriate for Northglenn. Again, I emphatically request this council move forward with the staff recommendations regarding the formation of this board. The formation of this board will be one of the most significant actions that any city council has taken in the city's 51-year history. You can be a part of it, or you can be the council that chose to do nothing in this crucial moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Joanna, who's next?
So I also have 5 voicemail messages that I would like to play for City Council. But while I pull those up, there's one caller on the line that I'm not quite sure if they would like to speak to council or not. I'm going to unmute the caller to provide them an opportunity.
Hi.
I believe that's me because I just got told I was unmuted. So I'm like, oh, hello, technology.
Can you state your name and address for me before you begin?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Samantha Behrens, and I live at 1209 Dean Drive. And I am actually kind of excited to be here. I have a quick statement for you guys. I've been in Colorado my entire life, born and raised. I've been in Northglenn for a year, and every day I'm absolutely loving it. So a couple of the issues I'd like to address would be these. I do urge you to listen to your city staff and the consultants from Barry Dunn, who I, as a taxpayer, help pay for. I want to see you guys move forward on establishing the community co-produced policing in Northglenn now. I want to see our community come together and help stop systemic racism in the police force, and not only in Northglenn Police Department, but also across the country. Our community making the step would help make the step nationwide. I want to see the hybrid model oversight board and vote no on keeping school resource officers in school. Police officers in the school make students that are Black or Latinx incredibly uncomfortable. We need trained social workers and counselors in place to help these students in their time of need. I was reading this studies such as Chalkbeat's article, Police Don't Make Most Black Students Feel Safer, the survey shows, and I want students in our community to feel that they are at school and not a prison. On a personal note, this last July, I was disappointed and outraged a little bit by the crime against Gerald Montoya's home on July 4th, on Independence Day. He was being attacked, and his Native American flag and his American flag were stolen. And on camera, 2 white males were seen stealing his property and vandalizing his front door and shouting obscenities at his home. What makes me very angry is that it was not fully investigated, and the NPD did not find the crime racially motivated. To me, that was very unacceptable.
I really appreciate your guys' time, and I really look forward to being a part of the community for a long time. And thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to call in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first voicemail is from Amber Martinez, and I'm going to utilize the speaker on my phone in hopes that it's the easiest for council to hear through the microphone.
Members of City Council, I urge you to listen to your city staff and very done consultants who I as a taxpayer have helped pay for. It is important for members of this community and the police that we work together for the good of this neighborhood and all of the people of our community. That is why it is important to establish a co-produced policing, which includes a hybrid model oversight board. In doing so, it will give us more transparency and cultivate a better relationship between the police and our people and the people of our community. It would be nice to see a police officer and know they are really here to help and serve us rather than strike fear in us, especially those of color. It'd be nice if my Black brothers, cousins, and friends could come visit me without worrying about police contacts that can leave them injured or even dead. It is important to vote no on keeping school resources officers in schools. My sons say they do not feel any safer with these police officers in their schools. There were numerous suicides in Adams 12 last year. So many that I got tired of. I became sick when checking my email because so often it was another suicide. I feel that if we had put those resources into counselors instead of police, those lives may have been saved. Most schools don't even have full-time counselors. If we reallocated those funds from police officers to counselors, we'd see a huge difference in the number of suicides, and students would feel more secure by having someone that they can talk to. My name is Amber Martinez, and I live at 11450 Community Center Drive. Thank you for your time.
And I should have mentioned for the public's benefit that none of the voicemail messages exceed 3 minutes, so that's why I don't have the timer displayed. The next voicemail message is from Cherry Roberts.
Hello, my name is Cherry Roberts. I live in Northglenn at 10514 Carmela Lane, and I'm an active voter. I'm calling to state my support for community co-production policing for a hybrid model citizen oversight board. I want to express my concern that systemic racism needs to be addressed in the Northglenn Police Department. Specifically, I have become convinced of this by the wrongful death by excessive force of Jeremy Patrick and by the July 4th racist attack on Gerald Montour. I believe that community involvement in decision-making around policing is important because citizen oversight is needed. I would be in support of amending the city charter, if necessary, by citizen vote in order to make this happen. I ask the City Council, please don't shelve this issue. Please move forward on establishing community co-produced policing in Northglenn now, including a hybrid model oversight board. Additionally, as a middle-aged white woman, I have felt the need to educate myself about racial injustice and police accountability. Two sources that I have used towards this end. One is a book called The New Jim Crow. Another is a movie called 13th. These sources have helped me to become more aware of systemic racism in the criminal justice system and specifically in policing practices. I highly recommend them. Thank you for listening.
The next voicemail is from an individual named Kirsten, and I apologize, I did not catch her last name, but she does state it in her message.
Hey, my name is Kirsten Zimbelman, and I am not a resident of Northglenn currently, but did grow up in Northglenn. Also, I have family that still lives in Northglenn, including my mother, my sister, her husband, and their 2 young children. I am calling tonight to support the community co-production of policing for a hybrid model of citizen oversight board and for removing school resource officers from schools. As a child growing up in Northglenn, I always felt safe and committed to keeping our community whole and together, and doing it by consulting with one another and having open communication. I think that the community has had a shift in demographics. I think that we need to make sure that we're including all voices in decision making when it comes to oversight or systematic racism in the Northglenn Police Department, actually within all police departments. City Council, I urge you to listen to your city staff and to the consultants from Barry Dunn, who have been brought in. Move forward on establishing community co-produced policing in Northglenn now, including the hybrid model of oversight board, and vote no on keeping school resource officers in schools. Thank you.
The next voice message is from Laura Friend.
Hello, my name is Laura Friend. I support the need for community co-production policing, for hybrid model citizen oversight board, and for removing school resource officers in schools. Systemic racism is a problem within many areas of our community, and especially present within all police departments. We need to address and change this for our community, but especially for the Black and brown folks that we call neighbors, friends, and community members. City Council, I urge you to listen to your city staff and to the taxpayer-funded consultants from Barry Dunn. Move forward on establishing community co-produced policing in Northglenn now, including the hybrid model oversight board, and vote no on keeping school resource officers in school. Thank you.
And the last voicemail message is from Lindsay Kennedy.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Kennedy. I am not a resident of Northglenn, but I have a lot of friends who live there. I am calling to address the issue of Northglenn City Council embracing the community's wishes of community co-production policing, and for some sort of hybrid model for a citizen oversight board, and as well as removing school resource officers from schools. I am an educator, and I have seen firsthand how school resource officers are there more as an afterthought and not necessarily as a preventative measure to keep the children safe, no matter what their intentions are. I think that the City Council should listen to your city staff and the taxpayer-funded consultants from Barry Dunn. I want you to move forward on establishing a community co-produced policing in Northglenn right now. And like I said, I want you to get school resource officers out of school and include a citizen oversight board in your future actions. There are lots of resources to engage with this further, and I hope that you listen to your constituents and try to make Northglenn a safer and better place for all of its residents. Thank you and have a good evening.
Those were all the individuals on the list, and I don't see any other callers on the line to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, let's see where we are. I believe we're moving into, where are we? Communications. We're going to go ahead and go backwards because I know our Mayor Pro Tem is on the Legislative Policy Committee. So we will start with Ward 4 with our Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening, our Legislative Committee presentation, or I guess report back, will be provided by Councilmember Duran Mullica. You know that we rotate every meeting to make sure that each council member has the opportunity to share information and report back with the rest of council. So you'll be hearing from me at the next council meeting.
Okay.
Anyway, just a couple of items from me this evening. First, I wanted to share that our CC4CA Policy Committee recently did leadership selection, and I was chosen to be the Vice Policy Committee Chair. And the first chair will be Carl Castillo out of Boulder this year. So exciting news to share there. And then the only other two things, one is I just want to say thanks to all of the residents who called in and shared their perspective and their thoughts about the direction that we should go as a community and as a council. I know it's 9 p.m. and for most folks on a Monday evening, the idea of sitting and waiting through a council meeting to provide their thought and feedback doesn't necessarily seem like the best way to spend their Monday night. But obviously, I appreciate them, and I think that it is important for us as a council to listen and to really hear what was said tonight, because I think one of the things that was really clear to me is that I'm just not entirely sure what additional information council feels like you all need to be able to move forward. I mean, we have had conversations for months on end. We've, talked at study sessions, at council meetings, at special council meetings. We have a 400-page document with recommendations. And honestly, I don't think I've never spent this amount of time on one particular area of our work as we have on community policing. And I guess I'm just really struggling to try and understand why we can't move forward on something when we have an abundance of information. When we had a conversation about not moving forward with establishing some targets for greenhouse gas reductions, even though our entire state is on fire, I could understand folks wanting to get more information about what it means to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But I'm just really struggling on this one because I feel like we've talked about it many, many times. We've asked for information, we've gotten information back, but yet we can't seem to move forward. And so I guess I'm just trying to understand, are we not moving forward because there are council members that are frustrated that Councilmember Duran Mullica and I had the audacity to talk to community and get some feedback? Are folks upset about that? If so, let's talk about it, but let's not keep holding up this process or forward momentum that our community is asking for, because you can punish Councilmember Duran Mullica and I all you want, but the reality is the only people that are truly being punished are our community members. So that's all from me this evening, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Escobar.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the only thing I have to report is that attended the Northglenn Senior Citizens Board meeting today, virtually. It was nice to see those folks again. And other than that, I've been busy trying to stay safe, and I hope everybody else is doing the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mullica.
There we go. Mute button. Thank you. All right. So updates for me. The RTD Accountability Committee has been meeting. We had our second meeting this morning. It actually went very well. We had to clarify some bylaws and kind of set the foundation that we're doing for public comment, talking about how we really like to incorporate some listening sessions into that. One of the aspects a couple things I'd like to just remind council about is one, RTD is picking the new GM general manager for RTD tomorrow. The videos for the three final candidates are available. So please, if you do have a chance to take a look at that, I think that would be great. The survey to provide input and feedback to our RTD board directors ended on Sunday night, but I know Vince Busick and he's a great guy. And if you guys have anything passionate or anything you'd really like to say and share with him, he's more than willing to get that feedback. So that decision is happening tomorrow night, and it's really important that everyone weighs in on that. In addition to that, throughout this process with the RTD Accountability Committee, and especially with public comment, I'd really like to urge anybody here on council to also speak up when it comes to any type of transportation issues or concerns that you hear from your constituents regarding transportation, whether it's traffic along I-25 or it's because RTD, was running late on the bus route and somebody wasn't able to get to work, whatever it is. Please feel free to share that comment. This is the opportunity to do so. I think we really have a great opportunity to change and make some huge sweeping changes to RTD that really reflects what our community needs. This is an opportunity we've been going for decades. I don't know, Joyce might be able to tell me how long this conversation's been going on, but this is our chance. So let's capitalize on the opportunity, and it'd be great to have a lot of elected officials speak out. So and that's really about it about the RTD Accountability Committee. If there are any other updates or anything going on, I will keep you guys in the loop. I do have the Legislative Committee report out that I almost forgot about, so let's do that real quick. The Legislative Committee met right before this meeting. We talked a lot about just any updates that were going on. Unfortunately, there's not lots happening right now in the legislative world, given that everyone is out for the season. But we do have an interesting presentation coming up on October 5th with council. We're going to have our lobbyists come and talk about the upcoming ballot issues. So that's always a great time for us to learn a lot more about the ballot issues, ask questions, and of course, I encourage our residents to tune in if they have questions as well. So that's right before ballots are going to get mailed out. So perfect timing so everyone knows what they're going to be voting for. In addition, the Legislative Committee started looking at our legislative brochure. If you guys recall, it's something that we revise every single year. We hand this document out to our elected leaders in the House and Senate. And this is supposed to give them a good idea of what are the policy priorities here in Northglenn. It also gives a little information about what our community looks like. We did talk about a couple of edits, including a nice page on our COVID response and what has that looked like at a city level, so people can understand what some of the programs that we've implemented, including information about the homelessness task force that was just kicked off 2 weeks ago or so, and then also including a social justice statement. So I think that we're still in the editing phase, of course, but as that continues on, we'll provide details for you guys. So that's the Legislative Committee update. It was pretty easy, short and sweet. So I'd like to end with talking about the August 12th meeting. So I know it's probably like kicking a dead horse at this point after all of the community comment we just had, but I actually was not at this meeting. And so I felt there was a need that I needed to, come back and share my thoughts with you guys, because I did watch the video and I was absent. I was spending some much needed time with my family. So unfortunately I had to miss this important meeting. But first of all, I'd like to thank the staff for all of their hard work in collecting and presenting that information. I know that it was lots of hours and time to put together, lots of thought, lots of consideration. And so I really appreciate them doing all of that work for us when we asked them to. So I do have to say I was really surprised about the direction of the conversation, being the fact that, we asked staff to bring this forward and provide more information. We also have an assessment that we paid $75,000 for that says, quote, on page 10, the Northglenn Police Department has a strong community-oriented policing foundation that would benefit from operational reforms developed through a community co-production policing process. Specifically, our assessors recommended that, quote, the Northglenn Police Department should formally adopt a community co-production policing assessment model and work collaboratively with city leaders and the community to reform police operations and community involvement through this model. So that is a direct quote from the report, which we've all read and we all know. So I guess at the end of the presentation, I felt really confused. I felt confused for a couple different things. One, I heard a lot of people talking over and over again, what problem are we trying to solve? And to that, I'm really confused because I know that many of us were on this, started this conversation from the beginning. So as we all recall, there was a shooting on December in 2017 where we left one young man dead and one young woman paralyzed from the neck down. So that was the event that started this all. From there, Northglenn City Council decided that we needed to look closer and evaluate our police department, which is why we hired the Very Done consulting group to come in and evaluate our police department, because we wanted their recommendations to move forward and implement. So I think what I'm confused about is if the 2017 shooting wasn't enough of a problem, then what more of a problem does this council need as motivation to move forward with the community co-production policing program? So I guess that's where I was a little confused, because I felt that the problem was pretty legitimate and serious, and we all knew what the problem was. So if that's not enough, what is the problem that we need to have in order to do this? Because I think 2 lives is a big enough problem to me. So we have a 2017 shooting. We have staff follow up and create and hire Very Done to come in and do an assessment on our police department. We move forward and we have staff recommendations that even say that we should create this community co-production police program. So, and I mean, how many times have we even heard so many people on this call talk about, well, let staff do their job, let staff do their recommendations. I mean, we've heard this several times. So I guess that's why I'm just really confused about what is missing. There's people who wanted more information. There's people who thought there was a budget concern. So I just feel really lost about where we ended up. And so I guess my next question is actually to Heather. I watched the video and I'm still confused. So maybe I'm missing something. What are the next steps to this conversation for the Citizen Oversight Board? Where did we even leave off?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Duran Mullica. I'm just looking at my notes so I make sure I capture this appropriately. I've captured several questions that were asked, but I think ultimately my role is to bring this topic back to council. I believe I committed to try to do that by early October. Part of bringing it back included that the police department, Chief May, Commander Waltz, Commander Osgood, and 2 other key staff members and myself, we participated with Very Done, Mitch and Fred last week in a prioritization of the 45 recommendations. So that was a process that normally prior to having presented the Very Done report, I would have brought forward a recommended approach, but given all of the concerns that surfaced in June and July around what the report was and what the report wasn't. If you recall, I held back on that and said that we would make the report public, have it available for public review, and that I wouldn't advance any specific recommendations. So there are clear recommendations that I need to advance on the operational side of the report, specific to addressing command staff structure. And so last week's all-day strategic planning session that I sat through and participated in, and then the chief and his commanders, I think they did another half-day session. We have another half-day session coming up the first week in September. So my goal is to bring forward those recommended, the recommended prioritization of those recommendations. So we took those 45 recommendations and prioritized them. So that's a piece of circling back to council and follow up from the August meeting. And then I also need to follow up on different pieces of information that council requested that I report out on, which included finding ways to engage community input strategies. That's not verbatim, those are just my notes. Develop more information on financial impact. So what would it cost in terms of engagement strategies? What would it cost in order to implement a hybrid approach? And so ultimately, I need to come back to council. And my goal is early October, but I don't have a specific date at this point in time because there's a lot going on. And so we just got through that prioritization exercise last week, and I need to see what that looks like. I haven't seen those results aside from my full participation last week. So does that help answer your question?
So we should be looking for a meeting in early October to continue this conversation?
Yes, as long as I can get everything pulled together to bring it back to council. And September is not feasible because we've got to get through the strategic planning process with the department. And like I said, there's a meeting scheduled for, I think it's September 1st, where chief and commanders and Mitch are going to walk me through what they've put together. And there's certain recommendations that we identified as needing, having budgetary impacts. And so this is going to be a multi-year implementation plan that's going to come forward to City Council. We're aggressively working on an implementation strategy for body-worn cameras that's going to come forward to City Council at the September 21st budget workshop meeting. So that's work that's being done behind the scenes. So within the next week, I can look at the tentative future agendas, talk with Chief tomorrow in our one-on-one, and I can try to identify a specific date to work towards. But at this point, I don't have a specific date other than early October.
Okay. Because I feel like this subject needs to be revisited. And so I'm really looking forward to that conversation happening. And hopefully, we're able to come to some type of decision, because it's important that this work is so important. And again, it's really just continuing the work that we've started back since we heard about the 2017 shooting. That's what all of this is stemming from. So it's not like, there's not a problem. If you don't remember the 2017 shooting, we could revisit that too. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you. Councilmember Downing. Oh, I'm sorry, I went out of order. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you. I don't mind going out of order. I just don't want to be forgotten.
No, I had just flipped in my head. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to report last week on August 19th, I did attend virtually the Rangeview Library meeting. They've been open to the public for a couple of weeks. and have seen a steady increase in circulation of their materials since they were able to open. They're still down compared to where they were last year, but they are seeing increases, each and every week. So they're expecting, eventually to catch up to where they were. They are offering still farmers markets at the Huron Street and at the Wright Farms locations, and that their attendance is high there. They're doing really well, even though people have to stand in line in this horrible heat. So if anyone out there is interested in farmers market, the closest one are the ones that are being offered by Anythink Libraries. You can go to their website and check those out. They did have their summer concert series. The last one was Hazel Miller, which I attended again virtually, and they consider doing it online reasonably successful, compared to their doing it in real life. They had about 7,000 viewers. I believe that was total over the three concerts. But during each concert, of course, they were asking for donations to help the library out. And they got 88 new donors. That's in addition to, people who have donated before. They didn't really mention the number on that. And that they did raise a total of $8,000 for the library over the course of those three concerts. So they felt pretty good about that. And they were kind of looking into the possibility of doing some more concert series kind of things, maybe in the winter. And so that's what I have to report on my activities since our last meeting. And then I did also want to echo a couple of other council members and thank all the callers we had tonight. I know for some people, I'm sure some of those people were feeling very nervous. Maybe it was the first time they've done that. And I appreciate the effort that they went to do that. I also believe that for every, and I don't remember the numbers because I've heard this somewhere before regarding emails to state senators and whatnot, but for every person who calls in, there are many, many more who share their belief, but either are working or intimidated or too busy or just don't have the resources to also call in. So I would hope that we all realize that for each voice that we heard tonight, there are many more behind them that share that same idea. I do think that this is an important topic and we need to consider it seriously. And boy, it's kind of a shame we have to wait till October to take the next step. But I hope that, that by then we have enough information that we can move forward. And that's all I'm going to say about that tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Downing.
Thank you. I really didn't have anything to report, but then when I listened to Julie, I totally agree with you about RTD. If you can, anyone that wants to take a look at the 3 resumes or verbal resumes on the RTD website and listen to them, all 3 candidates are awesome. They really are. So it's going to be a hard decision. And I couldn't remember the cutoff date, Julie, when to get feedback back to Vince, but he's open to anybody contacting him if you have any input at all. So yeah, let's get that support for the RTD. We need them to be working in concert with all of us. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Witkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing really to report. I just wanted to remind all of our residents about the Ward 1 virtual meeting that Councilmember Peterson and I are hosting on September 1st, beginning at 6 p.m. You can find more info about that at northglenn.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Yep, same thing and nothing else to report. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have anything to report either, just a couple of piggybacks. The RTD situation I agree with. The Adams County mayors met with our RTD board members and learned a lot about the 3 candidates, and they are very qualified, and it's going to be great for us with all three of them, whichever they pick. So it is very inspiring, and it makes us feel really good. And then I just want to encourage all of our teachers and students as they start a new school year, all across the metro area. There's different models across the street in Mapleton, Adams 12, Jeffco, Brighton 27J, all of our neighbors. Everyone is tackling this in a new and creative way. We haven't been in school for a while, so it's, gearing back up. All of the first day of school photos are so cute, with people with their laptops and their jammies, or still holding their cute little first day of school sign, really celebrating that this is still a moment, a transition for all of us. And I just wish everyone the best as they enter that new school year. All right, Joanna, do you have anything tonight?
There we go. I do have two quick things. I'll be really fast here. The first one is I will be attending the CML virtual conference for the next couple days. I wasn't planning on attending, but late last week I saw that Kendra Carberry from Corey's firm is going to be presenting a refresher on redistricting. And that's something we'll be needing to think about as we anticipate the new census information coming out next year. And Kendra's been super helpful over the years with everything elections. So looking forward to listening to her presentation tomorrow. And then I've also been attending a few webinars in relation to National Voter Registration Day, which is a little under a month away on September 22nd. It's a civic holiday. And so they had prepared webinars based on using social media to do virtual voter registration events. The social media that they reviewed was Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. Even though my daughter said, that's way wrong, Mom. If you want to do something useful, look at TikTok and Instagram. But staff will be looking at what we can do in order to connect virtually. And the Youth Commission, I'm so fortunate that they reached out and they are wanting to partner and be involved in election activities. So I'll be attending their meeting on September 1st to have a conversation with them and to see how we can all partner together to hopefully get the word out about National Voter Registration Day and to increase voter registration in Adams County and Weld County. And we'll definitely share more information with City Council as we figure those items out. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Have fun at the conference. City Manager Geyer.
Thank you, Mayor Lighty. Just one quick thing. Last Thursday, I celebrated my 2-year anniversary with the city, so I wanted to extend a thanks to all of you for the opportunity to serve Northglenn, and then really just give a big, huge shout out to staff. We have an amazing team here at the city, and I couldn't be prouder of all that we're doing. There's a lot going on given the late hour of our council meeting. So just thank you for the opportunity to serve. And like I've said in the past, Northglenn proud. Thanks.
Thank you. Corey, how are you?
I am doing well, Madam Mayor, but nothing to share tonight.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving into the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Lighty?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Mullica?
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel?
Yes.
I will close that vote and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, moving into public hearing. We have one tonight, CB 1950. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance adopting a new Article 13 of Chapter 2 of the Northglenn Municipal Code, creating the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board.
I will now open the public hearing on CB 1950. Joanna, do we have any comments or is anyone signed up to speak on this?
I believe there is. I may have misunderstood one of the members invited to be heard. So I'm going to unmute everybody to see if they would like to speak during the public hearing or if they had intended to speak at public invited to be heard at the end of the meeting. So I apologize about that. Let's see here.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Lauren Weatherly. I'm still on the line, and I just had a couple of comments about this item as well, because I've been following along with this conversation, and I really appreciate your attention to developing this board and really prioritizing diversity and equity in our community. So I just really want to see, I know that the application process is open and I hope that you're getting some great applicants. And I just really hope that in your selection process, you will prioritize selecting residents with identities that have been historically marginalized, people of color, LGBTQIA residents, and youth residents. And in particular, I know I've talked to many of you about this, but I'm an educator. And part of my background, a lot of work that I've done has been to engage young people in civic matters and in city projects. And so that's like a huge area of passion for me and a huge area of experience. And I really am encouraged by the fact that you included allowing for residents who are as young as 16 to be involved in this board. And I just, looking at sort of how the board was set up, there's space for one at-large youth member, which is great. And then I think there's like the opportunity for you all to select other youth members from your wards. And I just want to encourage you to really consider how much our young people have to bring to this conversation and to really prioritize those youth voices in this. So I just wanted to share my thinking around that, and I just appreciate the work that all of you are doing, and I appreciate you prioritizing this work in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on CB 1950?
I would.
Okay.
Hi there. My name is Ermine Nomir. Thank you for the few moments to be with you here today. And I think Lauren said some really good things, and she's awfully nice. I'm a little bit more poignant and matter of fact. I got a chance to read a lot of what's trying to be accomplished. And so can I just be frank?
Sure.
Thank you. As a person of color, I'm a bit concerned. There is some messaging that's going through there that gives me some heartburn on how I've seen these things play out in the past. I used to work for IBM, GE, huge companies, and ran a lot of the community relations. So I've done a lot of race relations work with in Richmond, Virginia. I've done it in Selma, Alabama. And I'm just proud to be here in this area now. And I'm going to express my concerns. Number one, there seems to be a lot of inconsistent language into the types of people who would be allowed onto the board. If there's truly a diversity and inclusion board, and there's ever a question of the percents of people of color and people that have historically been marginalized that need to be present on this board, there's a problem. If there's a question in someone selecting someone to fill one of these positions and they're not sure why we chant for Vanessa Guillen or Black Lives Matter or any other host water protecting anything that's going on right now, I'm concerned that ultimately that person has that much power. And in so selecting these people, if you don't understand those aspects, why the chants are going on, and you think to select someone who's more aligned with your way of thinking than maybe the chanters, there's a problem. And that's probably the person you don't want to select on the board if they align with your way of thinking. Because at this end of the day, us people of color, we know that all the people that share skin with us aren't necessarily our kinfolk. We know that there are people who are as dark as me and who will just as quickly throw their brethren under the bus or anywhere else so that they can look like appropriate in the eyes of the master. That's what a diversity and inclusion team that you're seeking to get insight from, that you're seeking to get perspective so that a 2017 shooting or anything like it doesn't ever happen again. And so I'm begging of you guys you're good people. You know, we all respect you in the community, but do some of the internal soul searching where it says, can I take myself out of who I am on an everyday basis and help to really pull together a diversity and inclusion team that's going to help you see things that you haven't seen before. Do it obviously in a respectful way, but isn't just your own echo chamber. Because echo chambers don't solve problems. We have kids out there right now that are saying that they're hurting, they're feeling, they're emotional, and they are in a space where they're begging for their leadership to lead, to give us a different future than the BS that we're seeing in mainstream media. There was a time, and we all want to get back to that, where we could all get along. We didn't always disagree on so much. But when you put a team together, and if you put it together in such a way that all it does is reinforce what we already have been hearing, you'd almost be better off not putting the team together. How much time do I have left? 19 seconds. All right, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate your input. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on CB 1950?
Yes, I would.
Hi, could you state your name and address for us?
Hi, my name is Samara Cecilia, and I live at 10648 Huron Street, Northglenn, Colorado. And I just recently applied to be on the equity board for Ward 4, and it was a really big step I decided to take because, as Ermine said, a lot of kids and youth are begging to be leaders, to be heard, to be able to create a better future for us and future generations to come. And I just really hope, you know, when it comes time for choosing who is on that board, that it is people who are genuinely passionate about making our community as a whole better, equal for everyone, no matter where you come from, what your race is, what your age is, and, you know, no matter what you believe in as far as religion or, you know, how you feel as far as being an LGBTQ goes. And I just really hope that it really is an equity board, and, you know, it shouldn't be a question if it's diverse, because that factor should already be considered. It should already be considered to bring in everyone and get everyone's opinions and everyone's thoughts and ideas about how to make our community safer, better, and we're not worrying about so many things happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on CB 1950? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. We will move into ordinances on second reading, CB 1950. So this is the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilmember Downing.
After listening to the last two callers, it brings forward a lot of things that probably I have been internalizing for a while. I'm not saying I need more information, but I just really appreciate what they brought forward. And I don't know how to address some of those concerns, especially the first caller, Hermine. I just don't know, and I'm not quite sure where she wants to go with all this. I'm just kind of struggling with this whole thing now. Not that I'm opposed to I'm not opposed to it. I am just, I'm just, after listening to the two I'm just a little concerned how we can address everybody's concerns that are out there. I'm just concerned about it.
Mayor, I can address some of those if you want me to.
Sure.
Okay. So first of all, with the diversity board application and the process, so all of that was vetted through Roberta Montoya, who is the West Region Director for the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. So we did have somebody from the outside look at it. And the other thing that I do want to mention is, so our application process is open through September 4th. But just to let you guys know of the applicants that we've received so far, we've received 5 in Ward 1, 2 in Ward 2, 5 in Ward 3, 5 in Ward 4, 1 for the youth member at large, and 1 for the at-large member. And I can tell you, so today I worked on the spreadsheet to put together all the data information from the volunteer section. And we do have a really good group of diversity in terms of gender identity, sexual identity, race and ethnicity, religion, education levels. I mean, really every section across the board is very diverse. And I do agree that having youth members on the board is really important. I know Amanda Peterson, who's our staff liaison to the Youth Commission, so she's reached out to them and walked them through the process and really encouraged them to reach out to their peers to apply for the board. I've reached out to Adams 12, to the Northglenn High School principal, and of course, anybody else that's an educator that can share that information with their youth, we really do welcome that as well. And I know that council members have also been actively reaching out to encourage their residents to apply as well. And we've also reached out to the faith community for their help as well. So we are reaching out to as many people as possible. We encourage you all to do the same. And so far with the applicants that we have received, it is a very diverse group. And you guys have some really good applications. So I do not envy your job in selecting who needs to get on the board.
Thanks, Rupa.
That is really great to know. I think I had a small fear that nobody would apply. So I'm really glad that we have quite a bit. And I would say also to, the callers that wanted to speak on the public hearing, I hope they applied as well. I hope they're in that applicant pool because I know I was left wanting to know more from Hermine in particular. Hermine or Hermine, I hope I didn't say that wrong. And really just kind of lean in a little bit to what she was trying to get across. So I hope she applied. That'd be awesome. Anybody else want to comment on this before we vote? No? Okay. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yep.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika,
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel.
Yes.
I will close that vote, and CB 1950 on second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have an ordinance on first reading, CB 1950. Joanna, will you read the title?
A bill for an ordinance amending section 5-8-8 of the Northglenn Municipal Code regarding the timing of the public hearing on the annual budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have Jason Loveland, our Director of Finance, here to provide a summary. Hi, Jason.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is very much just a cleanup ordinance. From the memo, you can see in 1975, there was a section to the municipal code that was added stating a date specific to September 30th being 15 days prior to the final day for the city to establish the ad valorem tax with the county. In 2005, that was added to the city charter, but did not include the September 30th date. So we're just trying to reconcile the two to make the municipal code align with the charter. Since the charter should trump the code, we've been following what's in the charter, and we just need to get that date reference out of the code.
Okay, is there any discussion or question for Jason? Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford,
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Downing,
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika,
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel.
Yes.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1951 on first reading passes unanimously. And I just want to note for the record that the public hearing on CB 1951 will be held on September 14th, 2020.
Thank you. Okay, moving into resolutions. The first one, CR 116. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Northglenn and Adams County School District Number 12 for a joint school resource officer program.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. So we have Police Chief Jim May, and it looks like Pat Hamilton with us tonight. Chief, will you provide a summary, please?
Yes, Mayor, Council, good evening. The purpose is to update our 2020-2021 school year school resource officer IGA. One thing that we want to make sure, we've been doing this working hand in hand with the school district since the early 1990s. One of the things we wanted to change in this one compared to the ones in previous years, due to the COVID situation, the school district wanted to put in there kind of like some protocols if they weren't able to open up the schools, that we can prorate some of those funds. And of course, you know, we were very open to that. The other thing too is making sure that we had the appropriate insurance. So the two risk managers worked together to make sure we had everything in compliance with them, and we did. The other thing too is we wanted to add, and again, hearing some of the things tonight too, the importance of you know, our responsibilities as police officers in the schools and those duties. We wanted to really push the mentor and educate and protect students, and that was added. However, we've been doing that for a long time, and Pat can probably talk about that as well. But one of the things that, you know, our officers in Northglenn have been working on too is restorative justice, and working with the judge and everything else, because I do agree that it's very important to make sure we don't stigmatize these, you know, our youth, where some of the crimes and things can penalize them for forever. So, you know, we do our best to, you know, mentor them, coach them, break down those barriers, be as transparent as we can in the school. So Pat, did you have anything to add to that?
Just maybe a couple of things. So I think the original proposed language was to continue to mentor, educate, and protect the students of Adams 12 5-star schools. So we do recognize that it's been an ongoing relationship that we value very much. Some examples of that value would just be, last year at Northglenn High School, we had a student who was armed in a classroom, and it was we were very thankful to have Officer Scadam at Northglenn High School to intervene in that situation and safely remove that student from the classroom, remove the weapon. Those are the types of situations that we all fear and worry about, and it's one of the reasons that we have SROs in our schools. One of the many reasons. We also had, several years ago, there was a shooting just outside Studio School that resulted in a victim that literally crawled onto our property and collapsed by a dumpster. And it was the quick reaction of the SRO in the community, as well as Northglenn Police Department, that really kept the situation that felt like chaos and panic at the time to our parents and to the district. But it was the partnership with Northglenn Police Department that got us through that situation. And then the last thing I would add would be, there was a person that mentioned earlier about the suicides in Adams 12 and how we started off 2020, which was horrible. We get those calls, we get safe to tell calls 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's no break. Even with COVID, there's been no break. And that includes suicide calls. Oftentimes, the very first person who goes and responds and reacts to those calls to go make that initial contact with the student who is potentially considering taking their lives is the SRO. So the SRO is the one who wakes up in the middle of the night and goes and makes that response call with and it might be with another officer, for a street officer, but the reason that it's the SRO is because they know the kids in our schools and they have relationships with our kids, and they're valuable relationships with our kids. We certainly appreciate the ongoing partnership that we have with Northglenn Police Department, and would love to continue to see that move forward.
We have some questions. Councilmember Malika.
Thank you, Mayor. So Chief, I have a quick question for you. I see in the memo that the IGA says that the city assumes the cost for benefits, equipment, training, and uniforms. So one of the questions I have for you, and I'm hoping that you could just explain this a little bit for me, is what type of training do SROs do specifically that helps them perform better in school settings? And the reason why I want to ask this question is because I actually was talking to a Northglenn High School student, maybe it was a couple months ago or something. I have a nephew who goes to Northglenn High School. And so anyway, she was telling me about how she's a Spanish speaker, how she was actually speaking Spanish with her friends, because if you notice in Northglenn High School, there's lots of people who speak Spanish. And the SRO told her to speak English because this is America. So now, is that true? Is that a teenager making something up, or is that something that's a really common practice? I don't know. I wasn't personally there, but that brings me to the question: is what kind of training are we doing for these SROs specifically?
So there's actually the school resource officers just went through some training with the school district. Pat could probably talk about that. But we also have conferences every summer that we send them to do. They talk about Colorado has their own, and then we do a national school resource conference where they talk about best practices and how to engage students. And I'm kind of shocked on that statement you just made that an officer would actually make that to me, especially in a Northglenn school. That's not who we are. If they're speaking Spanish, that's, they can speak Spanish. So I have concerns on that. So I'd like to look into that a little more. But again, with the training with the school district, also with the training that they do during the summers, they also do training, crisis intervention training, like Pat was talking about for suicide prevention and some of that. So on communicating with kids, connecting them with the right resources. The school resource officers work hand in hand with the link to try to provide services for families and everything else. So they're a pretty great resource for the families at the school and the students at the school if they're in need. So they go through quite a bit. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many hours extra they do, but I could find that stuff out for you.
Right. And so just a kind of a follow-up question to that is, if students or families have concerns or situations like that that they'd like to report, how does that reporting process work? Who do they even report that to, and how does that information get back to you?
Yeah, if it's a complaint against the school resource officer and they didn't notify, I know if a principal receives a complaint, they will let us know on that, and then it'll go into our internal affairs department. So if a parent wants to reach out to us, they can do the complaints. We have that, the online through our webpage. They also can give us a phone call, and we can put that in our new Blue Team. We have a new system that tracks all complaints. So we can track that there and then get back to them.
So do we have any data around any complaints that have been made over the past year or so? Do we have any of that information? Anyone?
I'm not aware of any, but again, I can pull that information for you.
Okay.
See if you had any complaints come in.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because, I'm really kind of torn here on this subject because I heard a story like the one I just mentioned, and it really just kind of scared me about, making sure that the adults in this environment are really supportive of these kids. But then I also understand the need for school safety. And so I think that if anything, it would be helpful to provide more transparency to this process. I'd like to, hear a little bit more about those complaints that are made and, where and what those complaints were, how many were there. And then, and that's why I asked the training question as well. So we have a better understanding of how these individuals are specifically trained to work in this environment. And that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Corey Hoffman has a question or an add-on.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to add a little bit to what the chief said because the post board actually mandates a certain curriculum for school resource officers. So some of the training that the chief was talking about, there's actually a specific curriculum. And as of, I think, June of 2017, there's a national association that sets the curriculum, and the post board says that as school resource officer, you have to follow that training curriculum. So it's not Northglenn specific. It's much broader than that.
Councilmember Goff.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I would just want to say as a preface that I worked 2 years at Horizon High School, and the SRO at that time, I don't remember his name. It's been, a few years ago, but seemed like a wonderful guy, never saw anything or heard anything to say otherwise. But we've also heard from some citizens who have concerns, and you certainly have, or I certainly have read in the news and heard some statistics about the school to prison pipeline issues. So I'm a little torn again, I guess, to echo a council member Mullica about trying to make a decision on this one. That I would have liked some data on how much interaction police officers have had in the past, what kind of how many of these interactions resulted in a student being arrested, or those kind of things, just to make a more informed decision. And I will say that I remember reading the story about the studio school shooting because I had friends who at the time who were teaching there. I had just recently retired, and it was really hard to find any information anywhere about what exactly had happened. And so that's another thing that I feel like some kind of community co-production policing group, board, task force would be really helpful, because it seems like a lot of stuff, and I know some of it has to do with legalities, But a lot of things that happen, there's no way to find out any more than just some little headline or some rumor from a neighbor, or in this case, I think a teacher had told me about it. I did find a press release that said 2 people were, some sketchy information, and then some, sketchy, like just a rough sketch of information. And then that 2 people were arrested, and then later those 2 people were released. And so I never even knew if the perpetrators or alleged perpetrators were caught or there anything. It's just, there seems like there's a lot of stuff that happens that people get a rumor going and nobody knows how to even figure out what the facts are. So I'm a little torn about trying to make a decision tonight when I don't really feel like, in this case, that I do have enough information. And I know this year is going to be a little different, and police officers won't be actually in the buildings as often because students won't be in the building as often, and they'll actually be, maybe it sounds like, more out on the street dealing with speeding, which is a good thing. But it's too late, I guess, tonight to do anything about more information. But when this comes forward again next year, I guess it is, I really would like to know some more information about what they were doing, what the SROs did in the past year, some breakdown of, how many arrests happened, how many did restorative justice, even by ethnicity, and just the kinds of information that people are asking or curious about right now would be really helpful.
So can I jump in real quick? I know Councilmember Peterson has a question, but I'm wondering if we could get some clarification on what exactly we're voting on, because it's my understanding that the Adams 12 School Board supports SROs in schools. And so what we're voting on is our financial partnership for that. Is that correct? We're not voting on, because we heard some people earlier saying, vote them down, like vote no on SROs. That's not our vote to make, because that's a school board decision. This agreement is the financial partnership. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's an intergovernmental agreement that we have with Adams 12 5-star schools. What I would recommend is, I've just heard from a couple council members that there's a desire for additional information.
Heather, can I stop you there? I would like more people to get to speak before we get to that summary piece, if that's okay. Because I saw quite a few hands. I don't know if you can see them on your side, but we have quite a few more council members that want to speak. But Pat, did you want to say anything to that question?
No, I mean, just to your summary, that is correct. Our school board and our superintendent both continued support to have SROs in our high schools and our middle schools. The other thing would be is that we also are going to be opening learning pods for high schools and middle school students. We've added high schools to that. So we will have, that is our intention to have SROs in our schools. High schools actually start this Thursday, the 27th. So it is our intention to have SROs in our buildings this fall.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Thanks, Mayor. Every time that in the schools that I've taught in and there's been an SRO, I found them to be an invaluable part of helping students succeed. It's an example of another role model. It's an example of another adult where students can talk to and to share information and to be the eyes and ears of the community in so many ways. It builds rapport. It helps students. I see policemen and women, high-fiving and helping students and helping them focus on their academics and their skills. And it's another positive role model directly in the schools, directly for our youth, directly in the community. I think SROs are invaluable. Godowski wants them, the board wants them, and I want them for those reasons. And I want to continue that relationship. I'm really seeing, I heard the comments tonight, and it seems that there's just a real consistent kind of snowballing effect to taking a look at things that we're trying to do to improve our community policing and improve our cities in so many ways. And I think this really morphs a little bit into something that isn't supported by fact and is it's extending a little too far towards, I think, a real anti-police bias without supporting facts. I have seen so many times in my career where we've had a staff meeting and the school resource officer has talked to us after the fact about weapons that they've heard of, and not just guns, but assaults that were ready to happen and things to where students felt comfortable. Because of that relationship, because of the community building, of really being preemptive in stopping things that could be so much more worse and so terrible. And our whole lives, again, this seems like ancient history anymore, but the world changed after Columbine, and that was what, 1999. And as we move to a more dangerous world and a more uncertain world, I am personally grateful as an educator for the SROs in my community, and I fully support this vote.
Councilmember Escobar.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, I don't want to get on my soapbox, but all of you know that I'm a social worker and that I worked for Adams 12 schools until I retired. My role in Adams 12 was a prevention intervention counselor, which means that I worked with at-risk students. Those students had trouble succeeding in the classroom for a variety of reasons, from drugs, alcohol, anger management, truancy, gangs, domestic violence in their homes, a variety of things. And I worked with many, many SROs from the city of Thornton at Horizon High School and Thornton High School. And I also worked with Northglenn officers at Northglenn Middle and Northglenn High and Vantage Point. And I can unequivocally say that they are a resource we do not want to be without. They are great working with kids. I want to emphasize that I work very closely with them in trying to help kids succeed in the classroom and succeed at home and then succeed in the community. And most of these, well, not most of them, all of them did. They took students under their wing, mentored them, helped them through their crises, made home visits with them. I mean, they did a number of things that it's invaluable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Downing?
Yes, thank you. I just wholeheartedly agree with Councilman Escobar. I have seen so many positive things come out of the SRO relationship with the schools throughout the years. And I was thinking as we were discussing this a few years ago, it's probably more than maybe 10 years ago, I'm not sure, when Officer Kellogg was still part of our police force. And he was, there was some discussion and they were going to be removing some of the SROs, and he was one of them from the schools. We had the council chambers full of residents and student parents that said, no, keep him there. And so and when I look at throughout the years and all the positive things, as well as that reaction to a removal of an officer from a school, I just believe that it's very positive. I know there was a family member of mine that if it wasn't for one of the SROs over at the schools, he probably would not have turned out as good as he did. And so I just think it's a very positive relationship. Yes, you're going to hear some negative things. You're going to hear negative things if you want to on anything, but this is something for our kids. It's safety. It's a positive relationship all the way around. I spoke to actually the Northglenn principal, high school principal, the other day, and she was appalled at the idea of not having an SRO there.
Thank you. So I have Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Witkovich.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess perhaps this question is for Pat Hamilton, possibly for Chief May, but I'm just curious, what other supports are in place and Adams 12 in Northglenn High School in particular for students, for resources and to, I guess, intervene and prevent incidents from happening outside of the SRO. So like social workers, somebody perhaps like Councilmember Escobar in his former role.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Wilford. When we passed our 2018 mill levy override, one of our commitments to the community at that time was to put social emotional learning teams, CEL teams, in all of our schools. And so we have added CEL teams to all of our schools. We've added counselors to schools as well. So we've increased the number of social and emotional supports that there are in all of our schools, elementary through high school. We've added deans as well. So deans also provide a crucial role in that support piece. So it's not just a few counselors. We actually have made significant increases in that space as far as staff on hand at schools to support our students.
I think you mentioned an acronym SPEL team. Can you?
SEL, S-E-L, social emotional learning.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate that. And then the other question I have is for Chief May. Do SROs have to report, like what are their reporting requirements? What does that look like? Do they have to report incidents, demographics, interactions? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, exactly. With some of the state requirements now, we have to report all arrests. We also have to report the race and ethnicity of the individuals as well. So we have to report that every year of what's going on. So,
and that's only arrest. That's not like, I guess, interactions that
referrals. Well, now with some of the other information, again, and with the new Senate bill, we have to look at how that goes because officers, especially SROs, they're in contact with students all day long. So, so we have to see how that works on the reporting of when they're in contact for students for if they're investigating in crime or unruly behavior. All that information also has to be documented.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I don't want to put you on the spot because I wouldn't know this information off the top of my head either. So perhaps we can add it to the list of things that that Heather and you are researching for other council members. I'm just curious, like what those incidents and what that reporting looked like in the last calendar year, the last couple of calendar year. Because I think that perhaps that could be helpful for us as a council as we're really kind of getting a hold on what the issues are at the high school and how we can do a better job of supporting our families in Northglenn. And then my other question was, I know it's been such a weird year with COVID and everything going and moving to a remote venue. So you mentioned, either you or Corey mentioned an annual training that SROs are provided. Did that training happen this year?
It did not. So the training that did occur was we worked with the school district and they held, I think it was a 2-day training with all SROs throughout Adams 12. So that's the training they had. On the National School Resource Officer, I think they have some webinar stuff that they can do and some online training. So I'll get some more information and put that out to everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then I guess the last two questions I'll ask are, one, we've been talking a lot about, community co-production policing. And I hear you saying and others saying that our SRO works really closely with the community, but I'm just wondering, like, how does that happen? Like, is there a strategic plan? Are there specific ways in which this officer is getting to know the students and their, particular situations so that they can act accordingly?
I know they work hand in hand with the principals at their school. They do perform some different teaching in certain classrooms and programs. Let me just go off topic just for a second. This being responsible for public safety in our community, I can tell you the school resource officer program is near and dear to my heart. And someone brought up the fact of Columbine, April 20th, 1999. And I was a SWAT officer at the time, and I responded to Columbine High School. And I saw what two individuals did to many students. It was horrific. I still can't get those images out of my head. I had a lot of colleagues that actually got out of law enforcement because of what they went through. I stayed in, and I stayed in with a purpose. And I think it defined my role going into community policing. And as an officer at that time, how can we do things different to build those connections, to build those relationships? So without just being total traumatized, I came back and I worked. And that first year was, again, April 20th. I started a teen police academy in the summer of 1999. And they're all different colors and, great students, male and female. My first class, I learned a lot. And then we built that, and we've been doing it ever since. And I think one of the things that I've learned, we also did Safe Street Halloween, trying to break down those barriers, show police officers in a different light. By removing them from the schools, I think we do our community a disservice, because that's the biggest opportunity that we can impact those kids, because that's where we see them. If we're not in the school, we're impacting them on the streets and everything else, and sometimes that's too late. So I wanted to make sure that we were a positive role model, and that's my expectation to my officers, that they get involved with the different clubs and groups within those schools. And I know several of you have been judges for our classrooms, so you know the diversity in those clubs and groups that we work at to provide a great community event. And then we have all our elementary schools and everything else that show up that night as well. And again, it's one of those things where I'm very passionate about it. It's very important. So I think it's a bad idea to even talk about removing kids from schools. Pat talked about a gun being removed from a student in one of the classrooms last year. That's because that other students trust in our SROs that went to them and talked about it. So I know that didn't answer your question of the strategic plan. I can tell you, going through some of the process and the things we're working on, that's another thing that we, again, on how we engage the students is very important.
No, I feel like you did answer a good portion of my question. I also really appreciate you being willing to share a personal story and help us as well as the rest of the community better understand why you are so passionate about SROs. And I certainly don't, I certainly understand that, there's a really tricky balance between, keeping our kids safe and, having or not having an SRO. But I would really like for us to, I feel like it might be a little late for us to ask for additional information to make a decision tonight. But I would love to have, a study session or, in the event that we do have a community co-production, please forward it at some point, maybe in October. We'll see about that, I suppose. But I do think that, we should continue this conversation to make sure that, this is working in the way that it's supposed to, because I share Councilmember Goff's concerns about the school to prison pipeline. And, there certainly is a pretty significant body of evidence there. So I don't think it's unfounded by any means. I guess the one last question I had for you is, Chief Mayor or even Pat Hamilton, is do we track the incidents students have with SROs and then follow up to see where they are in a year or two, or try to assess how that interaction impacted their lives and their forward trajectories?
So I'll chime in first, Councilmember Wilford. We don't have that specific follow-up in place right now. So it's not something that we follow up on with a specific student to see how that particular interaction impacted or affected that student. But I will say that we're constantly monitoring students' academic performance in the school. That's typically a good reflection of how they're doing as a whole. As well as their attendance, and there's other things that we would consider to be indicators or flags that would say, hey, maybe this student is struggling and we don't want a student to ever fall through the cracks. So there's a lot of indicators there. chief operating officer here, not the chief academic officer. So I unfortunately don't know a lot of what those measurements are, but we do track all of our students, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that they cross the finish line and they're successful while they're with us. So happy to do a little bit more research on that and bring that back to you.
All right, thank you so much.
Councilmember Witkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in here. I don't necessarily think that we've heard enough evidence and information tonight to make a decision to not fund. I agree with Council Member Wilford. In the future, I think a study session could definitely be helpful on this topic. But for now, we've heard lots of anecdotes, good and bad, from everybody. I've even had my own experience with an SRO. We had a foster kid who was at Northglenn Middle, and I can't even count how many interactions he had with that SRO. So the whole tracking issue, I think that would be kind of difficult, just based on my own experience. And thankfully, we had a positive experience with the SRO. But, I understand that I'm a white woman. My foster kid did not look like me. So there is that. But we had a positive experience. But I understand that's not everyone's experience. But I don't think that these stories we've heard is enough to say that we can't fund them tonight. I also think it's really important that we listen to our Adams County reps and the superintendent. They think that this is important and that this should be policy. And I think that they're the experts in that. And so I would like to listen to them. So tonight I'll be voting to fund them. But I do think maybe in the future, a study session could be beneficial, just so that we can all talk about everything that's come up tonight. But yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. So I wanted to weigh in quickly before we circle back and do another round if that's necessary. So a couple of things that I wanted to kind of piggyback on. Pat had started to describe the SEL program, social emotional learning specialists. That is a big deal. That is one person. And we've had this conversation as a council before, because I know that I've shared this, but both of my children have access to the following things at their school. So there is an SRO, there is a dean, there is a counselor, there's a social worker, there's a school psychologist, there's a community reach therapist, which I don't know that everyone knows that community reach partners with our schools, and kids have access to therapy at school. And some of those positions have interns. So when I think about kids, they have the school psychologist, but then they also have the intern that is supporting. That's another adult. High schools have campus supervisors. So again, they have the dean, but they also have the assistant principals and the principals in the building. And my experience has been positive or negative. All of those adults are impacting the lives of all of those kids. That is a lot, and it's a huge partnership. And I've worked in high schools. I've partnered with SROs at schools that my kids have gone to. I was as an assistant principal. I felt like the SRO was my teammate. The position is invaluable, but I think there is a misunderstanding in how it's being described as this isolated, armed, scary person that is not working in conjunction with the school. The SROs really do feel like they are a part of the staff. The staff consider them a teammate in the work. And if we were to ask for the data, which I think is fine, then I think we also need to ask for the suspension data. The how many times are kids, saying something about suicide and going to the psychologist or the counselor, or saying something to a campus supervisor. I can tell you some of the campus supervisors are more connected to kids and supporting them than some of the mental health people. So it is such a team effort. But if we were going to start collecting all this data, I started thinking about it. We are now shifting and becoming the Adams 12 School Board. That is not our job. So if we wanted to track suspension rates, attendance rates, school performance, what are those interactions like with the counselor? What are the interactions like with, how many kids go see the community reach person? We could have access to all of that data, but it's only important to us if we are the elected members of the school board. And so I feel like we're starting to shift a little bit. It makes sense because we have a financial interest in this decision to ask those questions about our SRO, but we're asking it in isolation because the SRO, like Chief May said, could be the person that gets the tip and he passes it on. Maybe he passes on an important piece of information to the school psychologist. Maybe he finds that student's therapist and says, hey, I need you to check in with so-and-so. Maybe he passes on something that's disciplinary but not illegal, so he passes it on to the assistant principal. So when we're asking for data, we're asking for one piece of a really big puzzle. And so I guess I would kind of want us to dig a little deeper about what exactly are we trying to get at? Are we trying to make assumptions about kind of a race divide with our SRO environment or involvement? Are we just asking the question because we're worried it might be there? Are we making the assumption it is there? And then in that case, we could dig into suspension data in the exact same way. And so, you know, is that a conversation that we need to partner with the school board with and say, hey, we'd like to have this joint study session about all of this data so that we can provide support to our kids. But I think we need to just have a broader understanding of the role and make sure that we're asking the right questions for the right reasons. Because I know, very similar to Councilmember Esquivel's experience, it is an invaluable partnership. And it really, I mean, I'm going to vote for it every day, all day, because it's so important to our kids. And as far as the situation at the studio school goes, I don't know that was an outside situation. It was not a student. They don't have SROs at the elementary. So that particular example, I didn't quite understand how it fit the conversation tonight. My kids were there for that moment. That whole thing was scary as can be. And we practiced the evacuation routine. And there's more to that always, but I didn't quite understand that didn't involve an SRO. So I didn't know that piece of that question. But I'm a little concerned that we're kind of overstepping and doing some school board work. But when it comes to this decision, I believe, yes, it should be a partnership. We always continue. Pat.
I'm happy to give you a little bit more explanation on the studio school example. So anytime we have a school that goes into a lockdown, or when we practice lockdowns in our schools, which we are required to do, it's our SROs that are the people that come and practice those lockdowns with our students. So from the moment that crisis started, the first responders that are there to even just release the school and start to get back to some sort of normalcy, which the next step of normalcy for us at that point is a standard reunification method to go back and get parents to, or the parents and kids together. But that very first step of that is getting all the SROs from the city of Northglenn. And in this case, it was mutual response. So there were SROs from other parts of our community too, that are all in that building twice a year, practicing lockdown drills with us. So the students know what to expect. They know when an officer comes to the door and tells them, hey, this is what's going on. They trust that officer. It automatically starts to release some of the tension in the building. So that was that response. And oftentimes you get, frequently in our situations with schools, even with the dense population that we have, the first people at our schools are the SROs. So in this case, that was certainly a situation that we were dealing with, and they were the ones who released that initial lockdown and transitioned this into a lockout, which is now called secure environment. So
yes, I know.
Thank you. And also, Madam Mayor, thank you for your explanation of the social and emotional learning supports that are in a building, because you're much more connected to that work than I am. Again, I build buildings and do things like that. But
there's a lot there. Councilmember Mullica.
All right, and I'll make this quick, Mayor. I know you want to move on from this topic, but I think what I wanted to do is just take a moment to clarify my comments previously, because I feel like it turned into this big snowball thing, and you know, that's the way things go nowadays. But one of the things I wanted to clarify is that I am not against SROs. What I was really arguing for is transparency in the process, and that if we are going to use city money to support these SROs, then we should be responsible and ask questions about their performance and things that we do in the things that they do in the schools. To be honest with you, I don't know if I've ever seen any type of data, any type of anything really about SROs in our schools other than the IGA that we approve every single year. So what I'm asking for is just a little bit more information, which I think your suggestion would be great, is doing a study session and talking about what that means with the school board. I understand that the school board supports SROs. That's great for them. But we do have to be responsible for the money that we spend on behalf of the city. And so that's what I'm asking here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I guess I would just echo pretty much what Councilmember Mullica said. I am a big proponent for school safety. I taught in schools, mostly elementary, for 25 years in Colorado and 2 or 3 years in New Mexico. So I'm not saying that I want to get rid of the SROs or anything along those lines. I just am very curious as to, exactly what kind of data we could see and share with our citizens and parents of students in schools of what they're doing there. I think, if there is some suspicions that people might have or concerns that people might have, if they're looking at nationwide data, which is facts, it's not just something that, people are making up, they have concerns. And it would be really nice to be able to show our residents that here in Northglenn, this is what happens. And it may not be anything at all like what people are expecting. I have no expectations. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's good, but I just don't know. So and I don't even know if I need to really dig deep into what's going on with with the district, which if we want to do a shared study session and get even more data, that's great. I was just asking for more information. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments on this item? Okay. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yep.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Sorry about that. Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Mullica?
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel?
Yes.
I'll close that vote, and CR 116 passes unanimously.
Okay, moving into CR 121. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution adopting a council travel policy for the city of Northglenn, Colorado.
Move for approval.
Second.
So we have Jason Loveland, Director of Finance, back with us again to provide a summary of this item.
So this item is reviewed every couple of years by the Finance Committee and staff. So this was the year that the Finance Committee took a look at this. So if anyone on the Finance Committee wants to chime in, please do so. So we're amending the council travel policy, and in the memo, I made note of really the only change besides some formatting and restructuring was to be specific to overnight stays being reimbursed or paid for by the city if outside of 35 miles from City Hall. Other than that, there were no recommended changes from the committee, and staff just had made some formatting changes, as I mentioned. So happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments on this item? Okay, Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford,
Yeah.
Councilmember Witkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Downing,
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Mullica,
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel.
Yes.
I will close that vote and CR 121 passes unanimously.
All right, the next one, CR 122. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving the financial policies for the city of Northglenn, Colorado.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, Jason's with us again. Will you provide a summary of this item?
Yes, sure. Again, this is something the Finance Committee reviews every couple of years, works with staff to take a look at different changes. Comprehensive financial policy is kind of some broad overriding financial goals. Nothing terribly specific, but a couple of highlights that changed or had updates. For the general fund operating reserve minimum, we just were more specific in that 25% minimum included the Tabor reserve plus another 22% to get to the total of 25% minimum. Previously, we had been using the water and wastewater master plan documents from, I believe, about 2009 to define our operating and capital reserve minimums in the water and wastewater funds. Now we incorporated it into this document to be more specific and clear. We added a reserve requirement into the sanitation funds of 25%. Then we simplified some of the language in the debt management policy section. And really, these are kind of overarching high-level policies. And then the last thing is we realized that we defined a lot of words in the glossary that were not actually in the document. And although they're super important finance terms, they probably didn't need to be in the glossary of this document. So happy to answer any questions regarding this policy.
Any questions or comments for Jason? Okay, thank you. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford,
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Downing,
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Mullica,
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel.
Yes.
We'll close that vote and CR 122 passes unanimously.
Okay, moving to CR 123. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution authorizing assignment to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority of a private activity bond allocation of the City of Northglenn pursuant to the Colorado Private Activity Bond Ceiling Allocation Act.
Move for approval.
Second.
Great. City Manager Geyer, will you provide a summary of the item?
Mayor Leidy, Becky Smith, our planning manager, is here with us tonight. Becky, thanks for hanging in there with us. She's going to provide you with a summary. Thank you.
Great. Hi, Becky.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council. I'll keep this brief because I know Brooke was here last week. Basically, this is a resolution that, if approved, would assign the city's 2020 private activity bonds, also called PAB, allocation to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, referred to as CHAFA. PABs are tax-exempt bonds issued by public entities to provide low-cost financing for private projects that serve a public purpose. Northglenn's 2020 allocation is just over $2 million, and staff is recommending approval of assigning the city's PAB to CHAFA. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford,
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Downing,
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika,
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel.
Yes.
I will close that vote, and CR 123 passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Moving into discussion items, we have Amanda Peterson here tonight, our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services, with the Master Plan Phase 1 Implementation August update. Hi.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have the monthly update for you. We are continuing to move forward with construction on the new Recreation Center, Senior Center, and Theater, and things are continuing to go well. Our concrete pools are starting to take shape. You can actually see the form of the pools out on site now. We've got crawl spaces that are coming together underneath that pool, or the kind of gymnasium, next to the gymnasium, as well as under our theater side of the building for maintenance access once the building is complete. The top lot foundation is nearly complete, where our future preschool playground will be. And we've got fine grading that has started in the area around the Veterans Memorial. So really starting to see things continue to take shape week after week. I did want to share with you, we received a grant from Xcel Energy for the installation of the infrastructure associated with electrical vehicle charging stations. So that's kind of part one of two. We will actually apply for a second grant as we get a little closer to completion of the project for the vehicle charging stations themselves, due to the timing requirements from Xcel for those funds. But that was good news that we did receive funding for the first phase on infrastructure. We are kind of connected to that. We are continuing to explore the possibility and the costs and benefits of including a solar array on the roof of the building. If you all recall, we did include as a part of our design process preparation for that to happen. The solar array is not included in the current project budget, but except we're working towards determining how we might be able to include that utilizing contingency dollars and the existing project dollars. So more to come on that later, but just wanted to share with you that staff is continuing to seek out additional information and try to make sure that we can explore all the possibilities in adding that solar array before we complete that project. So more to come on that as we identify what the costs are to do that, as well as what contingency dollars we have available to us as that project starts to get closer to completion. Wanted to share with you also that artist Mark Ailing has unveiled to the Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation and staff the concept for the lobby sculpture. The Arts and Humanities Foundation was super excited to see what was proposed. They have asked that he make a few little tweaks, particularly on colors. So I think by next month, I'll be able to share with you some images of that piece. But it is inspired by the state flower, the columbine. And I think you'll be excited to see that when we're able to show that to you. I know during COVID, we've certainly had a harder time connecting with our community in some ways. In others, I think there's been some virtual opportunities that have helped more people connect with us. So we do want to take advantage of that as much as we can, knowing that we don't have the opportunity to see people in person quite as much. But FCI has put together a short video that we'll be sharing on social media with some quick facts about the project and the project site that they put together. I'm also working, and the whole team is working with Diana as our communications director to put together a video that we'd like to release as we can reach the topping out ceremony point in the project. It'll be a virtual tour of the construction site itself and help people tie what they're seeing on the construction site with what they'll see as the end result of the project and each of the spaces that are planned in the building. So that would be likely released in early October or so. As we get a little closer to the date of the topping out ceremony, we'd like to tie those two together. But just one more opportunity for our community to be able to connect with what's going on with the project, even if they're not able to see it happening every day. On the budget side, there's been one adjustment you'll see that was made since last month's update, and that was the addition of the judo mat lift. And some of you may recall long ago conversations. We did work with our Northglenn Judo Club. They had a desire to include a lift for their very large mats that'll pull them up and out of the way in the gymnasium. Judo Club did ask to contribute to that. So what you see in the budget is the cost to put in that lift. There will be another item that'll come forward here as over the next few months, accepting funding in that same amount, which is about $11,000 that the Judo Club will provide to offset that cost of the lift that's for that one piece of specialty equipment. And with that, that is all I have for you this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for Amanda? No? Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Have a
for
good
the
night.
update. We appreciate your patience.
Of course.
So I'm looking at the agenda. We have 3 more items and then the wrap up. So I'm looking at the clock. It's 10 to 11. We can try to tackle one more. We can make a motion to go past 11. What would you like to do? You're going to try to sneak one more in?
Tackle one more.
Tackle one more. All right. So the next item is the council ex officio appointment to the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board. So Rupa is here to introduce this item. Hello.
So this item is for council to select their ex officio member to the board. That appointment will be made official via council resolution on September 14th. And as a reminder, the ex officio member will be interviewing and selecting the applicant reviewing the applicants and interviewing the applicants for the 2 member at-large seats with the mayor. And with that, I will turn it back over to the mayor.
Well, hello. Do we have a presentation that goes with this, or?
No, there's no presentation. It's really just whoever wants to be considered for the position, and then if you want to facilitate that discussion.
Oh, okay. I did have a question. I know Councilmember Goff, I think you had volunteered, and I did wonder after all of the discussion tonight with the board, if even our member should be someone with a little more diversity. I wasn't sure if anyone had thought about that or if it mattered. I heard a lot about, making sure that we had, diversity in all seats. So I didn't know if anyone wanted to speak to that. Councilmember Malika?
I'll speak to that. So I definitely heard what, residents were saying tonight. I actually still do support Catherine in this position though, because of her amazing family and the journey she's been through. And so I think that, she has a very unique perspective anyway to bring to the table. So I would still support Catherine. I definitely heard what folks were saying, but I know, I don't know. I know personally for me, this isn't a time commitment that I would be able to give fully to, and I want to give 100%. So yeah.
Well, just so we're clear, I do not believe anyone should be excluded from this board. So I wasn't proposing that. I just wasn't sure based on all the comment tonight if that was a direction anyone wanted to go. Does anyone else want to speak to that? I sort of hear a motion for Catherine.
So moved.
Yeah. Okay. And a second, looks like. Antonio, what would you like to add?
Thank you. I didn't know that I was unmuted. I guess I unmuted myself. There's two people on the council who are persons of color, and I personally am not interested in it. So I would like to see Julie. I know she's got a lot on her plate, but I think she's what the board would really need. And I would like to see her on that board.
Thanks, Antonio. But I am swamped. I know, and especially with the new RTD Accountability Committee, and we're having subcommittees on that. I think I'm maxed out for this one, but I really am excited about this group, and I'm excited that I think Catherine would be fantastic. So thank you for the nomination. I appreciate it.
All right, so I think, do we have an official vote, or do we just provide consensus that Catherine, do you want to say something?
Yes, I'll just real quickly. I know that I can't, to be an ally or to have a friend or a family member who is a person of color or a person in a group, a marginalized group, is not sufficient to be to lay claim to speak for those people. I get that. I totally get that. However, because I do have family members in several of these marginalized groups, I feel like I have some sensitivity and willingness to listen, and I've learned a lot from my daughter-in-law, my niece. Let's see, who else do I have here? My son. And so I just want to assure people that even though I'm not personally a representative of one of these groups, I do have a sensitivity and awareness, a compassion, and I certainly have the time to work on a committee that is going to take a lot of time. So thank you.
Great. Well, I think we just raise our hand. Yes, we want Catherine to do it, and she's in. All right. Sounds good. Well, I think we're too close to 11 to keep moving. So can I get a motion to continue? Well, someone has to do it so we can vote. So
Motion to continue.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Great. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford,
She's muted.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitkovich,
No.
Councilmember Peterson,
No.
Councilmember Downing,
No.
Councilmember Goff,
Oh, I'm going to have to say no.
Councilmember Duran Malika,
No.
Councilmember Escabel,
No.
I will close that vote, and the motion to continue the meeting past 11 fails with one affirmative vote cast by Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
All right. So City Manager Geyer will work to rearrange the rest of the items on our future agendas. But with that, I adjourn the meeting. Have a great night.